apply.
Broadcasting on the unceded traditional Algonquin territory of the Anishinaabe people, this is City News, CIWW 1310 AM and 101.1 FM, Smiths Falls and the Valley. City News time, 9 o'clock.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, May 19th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 8 degrees. It's 9 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. 2 provincial party leaders in Ottawa today, but one of them won't be seeing anybody. Andrea Horwath in self-isolation in a hotel room after a positive COVID test. The NDP leader, though, says she is feeling fine. Green leader Mike Schreiner also in work-from-home mode after a positive test. This all happening on a day advance polls open. That's about 1 hour from now at 10 o'clock. Here's City News reporter Kevin Meisner.
The first COVID case is now confirmed among the main party leaders. NDP leader Andrea Horwath says she tested positive this morning, just hours after Green Party leader Mike Schreiner confirmed he got a positive rapid test last night. And both becoming infected after taking part in the leaders' debate on Monday, which saw all 4 of the main party leaders sharing a TV studio together for over 90 minutes. Now, Horwath says she doesn't have any symptoms, but is canceling today's campaign stops in Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay. Schreiner says he feels fine. He plans to isolate and campaign remotely. Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca's campaign team confirms he tested negative this morning. He's planning stops in Mississauga, Brampton, and Ottawa today. PC leader Doug Ford's campaign says that it's been more than 24 hours since the debate, and Ford is not experiencing any symptoms. However, they don't say if Ford actually took a COVID test. Ford will be in Niagara-on-the-Lake and St. Catharines today. All of this as the advance polls open in all 124 ridings across Ontario as of 10 o'clock this morning. At Queen's Park, Kevin Meisner, City News.
City News time, 9:02. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A cooler day for us today. A few showers at times, a high about 15 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, will drop to 8 degrees. And heads up tomorrow, it will be warm and humid, 26 feeling like 31. A few showers, scattered thunderstorms possible Friday. For today, the high 15.
And right now it's 8 degrees in Ottawa, 9 degrees in Smiths Falls. Prince Charles and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, spending the final day of the royal visit. They will be in Canada's north today.
The Prince and Duchess were greeted by crowds all around Ottawa yesterday. The royals packed a dozen events into their busy schedule.
They're living fairy tale, really.
Robert Hoop introduced the couple to his maple syrup products in the Byward Market, where they were swarmed with crowds. Today, the couple has another busy day in the Northwest Territories, with stops meant to continue the trip's focus on climate change, literacy, and Crown Indigenous relations. Laura Osmond, the Canadian Press, Ottawa.
City News time, 9:03. Alberta's governing United Conservatives will hold what's sure to be a very interesting caucus meeting today. Party leader and Premier Jason Kenney announced last night he's stepping down after narrowly surviving a leadership review at 51.4% support. He says he will stay on as leader until an interim replacement is chosen and will also keep his seat in the legislature. A joint Sûreté de Quebec and OPP investigation resulted in several charges against truck driver training. Several people have been charged after a 2-year investigation into allegations which police say compromised the safety of our highways. Over 200 incidents where fraud was used to obtain a commercial driver's license. That included using an interpreter to complete required knowledge tests and bypassing mandatory entry-level training. The OPP says in the hands of those with little training, commercial vehicles can be deadly. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
When the headlines say X,
he's got the Y.
it's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
14 days to go in the Ontario election campaign, and the curveball today is COVID-19. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. Busy day in the news game already. That's the way we like it around here. Coming right up, author and columnist Randall Denley has been covering the Ontario election campaign for the National Post and the Ottawa Citizen. He's one of our weekly contributors, so he's going to give us the very latest from his perch on what he thinks the next 2 weeks are going to look like in the race for Queen's Park. The news today, as you heard, not good for a pair of party leaders. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner's tested positive for COVID-19. He's at home. And then it came out this morning that the NDP leader, Andrea Horwath, has also tested positive for COVID-19, so she's holed up in an Ottawa hotel room. Maybe listening. Hello, Andrea. She was campaigning here in Eastern Ontario yesterday. Man, oh man. So one can only wonder, did all of this happen at the leaders' debate? Earlier this week, is Doug Ford getting tested right now? Stephen Del Duca getting tested right now? Althea Raj, Steve Paikin, everybody who was at the debate, because it was, did you watch the debate? It was kind of close quarters there, eh? Close quarters. Were they even 6 feet apart? I don't even think they were 6 feet apart. And there was, some yelling going on. And they weren't wearing masks. What if they all have COVID? This week could end up being a total write-off. And if you're the NDP, couldn't happen at a worse time. I mean, this is the party. It's trying to convince voters all we need is 10 more seats. All we need is 10 more seats. We get 10 more seats, we'll win the election. No more Doug Ford. But I'll tell you what, the way things are looking, that party's going to be lucky to hang on to what it has right now. Very lucky if it hangs on to what it has right now. And even that is, that's looking more doubtful by the day. Most of the polls show the Liberals are back in favor in the 416 area code, where the NDP picked up a lot of seats there 4 years ago because the Liberals were unelectable 4 years ago. And now the NDP trails even the PCs in Toronto. Here in Ottawa, I don't know if Ottawa Centre's even a sure thing anymore. And I don't know if Ottawa West Nepean is going to be as close a race as it was 4 years ago. At least that's not what the public opinion research would suggest. Now, as for the polls, the polls. Nanos has it looking like this. PCs, 36. Liberals, 29. NDP, 20. NDP down. Do you hear that, David? The NDP is down 4 points in a week. David Coletto says it's Doug Ford's race to lose. He's the CEO of Abacus Data. New polling out in the last 24 hours. PC's 35. Liberals, 28. NDP, 24. And that same poll has, listen, the Liberals are up in Toronto, like the 416 area code, by 9 points over the PCs. And they're ahead. The Liberals lead the NDP in Toronto by 20 points. Ooh, boy. Here in Eastern Ontario, PC's up by 12 over the Liberals and up by 22 points over the NDP. Wow. Over at Main Street for iPolitics, PC's 37, Liberals 25, NDP 23, but Keto Maggie at Main Street still has the Liberals finishing third and the NDP remaining official opposition. But an even bigger Doug Ford PC majority government on June 2nd, which is 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today. It's the election in Ontario. So we're going to talk about all of this with Randall Denley this morning. And then our panelists will join us right after the 9:30 news. Our Liberal friend Lindsay Maskell and our Conservative friend Andrew Brander. And we'll do Ontario politics this week. Also on the show this morning, Alan Hubley, Canada Area City Councillor, chairs the Transit Commission, where they are all wearing rose-colored glasses and dreaming in Technicolor. There was a meeting of the Transit Commission yesterday. A number of notable items came out of that. OC Transpo is bleeding red ink. OC Transpo lost almost $18 million in the first quarter, $17.9 million. Okay, let's round it up. Let's call it 18. You lost $18 million in 90 days. Okay. OC Transpo is losing $200,000 every day. $200,000 a day. OC Transpo's losing $200,000 a day. We could give everybody an Uber ride wherever they want to go in the city for $200,000 a day, I'm telling you. And this is right from the report that was released yesterday. Quote, bus and train ridership throughout 2021 was up by 22% from earlier in the pandemic, but still 33% of pre-pandemic levels in 2019. 33% of pre-pandemic levels. 33% ridership. 33% ridership. And I would remind you that the people in charge of putting together the budget for public transit in this city based that budget on ridership hitting 82% this year. 82% of pre-pandemic levels. Wouldn't you love to know what they were smoking? Number yesterday, 33%. So let's say, best case scenario, ridership is down. Best case scenarios, it's only down 60%, and it's losing $1.4 million a week, $200,000 a day. So, of course, what's the plan? Oh, hiring spree. Sure, right. Good God. Where else would this happen other than OC Transpo? This is the OC Transpo management plan. Hey, let's hire 300 more bus operators. Seriously? Because of break time? Hiring 300 more bus operators for a public transit system that loses $200,000 a day, and you see it out there. Don't tell me you don't see it. Near empty buses circling the city at all hours of the day into every neighborhood in the city. Oh, it doesn't make any sense at all, especially with fuel prices the way they are now. My goodness gracious. This is a service that is in a dire need of rationalization, not a hiring spree. And it's in the newspaper today. The estimate for the LRT extension to Barrhaven, $3.2 billion. Like, hey, OC Transpo, whisper it in my ear. You have a secret money tree at the Saint Laurent bus garage, don't you? I know you do. You must have a secret money tree at the Saint Laurent bus garage, and nobody else knows about it. Come on, fess up, fess up. Alan Hubli, chair of the Transit Commission, interview at 11 o'clock this morning. The cost of food, major contributor to that inflation number released yesterday. 6.8% is the inflation rate in Canada. Food inflation running even hotter than that, up almost 10%. That's a number we haven't seen since Rick Springfield was singing about Jesse's Girl in 1981. That's before our local farmers have put a seed in the ground, ladies and gentlemen. Food inflation's running at 10%. We've heard it from farmers on this show. Fuel costs doubled. Fertilizer costs doubled. Haven't planted anything yet. Going to dig into this a little bit more. Michael Obey has been on the program many times before. He's with Rutter's Elevators in Chesterville. Very plugged-in guy in the local agri-economy. Like, it's kind of good news, bad news, I guess, for the farmer. The prices for the agri-commodities are strong. Corn and soybeans are the local cash crops. Corn and soybeans. Soybean prices on the commodities markets up 25% just so far this year. So that's good for the farmers who are selling soybeans. Corn prices even stronger, up 31% just so far this year. But their input costs have doubled, right? Fuel, feed, fertilizer, way up. So that's coming up 11:30, I think, around that time. Yeah, 11:30. Okay, and we're going to do the Talk Back Hour. We do that every morning on the Rob Snow Show between 10 and 11 o'clock. An hour of opinions. Our phone calls, your opinions, your phone calls. I have a few opinions of my own in case you haven't noticed. But today, hey, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. It's in the newspaper this morning. The largest union representing federal government workers wants a 13.5% pay raise for its members over the next 3 years. Talking about PSAC, more than 200,000 members, public servants. Want to know what you think of that? I want to know what you think of that demand. It's a 4.5% raise every year for government workers every year for the next 3 years. Keep in mind, that doesn't even keep up with the cost of living now. The inflation rate is 6.8%. But for a federal government that is more than $1 trillion in debt, you also have to keep in mind that paying its workers is the single largest expense for the federal government. It's the federal government's payroll, because the federal government is the largest employer in Canada with 370,000 employees. And if PSAC wants 4.5%, they'll all want at least that, maybe more. But it doesn't even keep up with the cost of living. 4.5% for 3 years. They work for you. So, fair deal or too much? That's our Talkback Hour question this morning on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
Slept down in the valley where Saskatchewan flows, and I've got my feet full of Alberta rose, Alberta rose, Alberta rose. Prickles in your feet, makes you feel like going home. To the city, I had myself a seat down in the park with a beer was cheap. I bought drinks for the girls, but you know how it goes. Got myself pretty by an Alberta rose, Alberta rose, Alberta rose. Prickles in your feet, makes you feel like going home. Alberta rose, Alberta rose. Prickles in your feet, makes you feel like going home. Slept down in the valley where Saskatchewan flows, and I got my feet full of Alberta rose, Alberta rose, Alberta rose. Prickles in your feet, makes you feel like going home. Alberta rose, Alberta rose. Prickles in your feet, makes you feel like going home.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
The Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca, is campaigning right now. Stephen Del Duca, the Ontario Liberal leader, campaigning in Mississauga at a gas station.
provincial parties.
Because he's going to cut the price of gas.
Would you say to these folks who are feeling that even though they've voted for Justin Trudeau federally, that they think Doug Ford is the best person to be premier here in Ontario?
Well, first of all, let's be really clear about this. I think advance polls open today. I think I'm right about that, Aman? Yeah. So nobody in Ontario has really voted yet. So standing here with 2 weeks to go, standing here and presuming that we know how anybody in this province is going to vote, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. What I know is that the people who are hearing our positive, forward-looking message understand clearly what is at risk right now. And this includes people who voted for every party, I imagine, federally, who are feeling it at the pumps. They're feeling it in the grocery stores. They know that Doug Ford will continue to drag this province back and hold people down. They know that he stood in front of the people of Ontario and said he was going to make the price of gas cheaper, that he was going to make it easier and cheaper to buy a home, for example. And they know instead what they got was the real Doug Ford over 4 years. Someone who delivered cuts and chaos and havoc, someone who had no interest in actually performing in a credible and competent and responsible way, and someone who now, right before an election campaign began, started issuing press releases on a fairly frenzied basis to try to make it seem like he still has the same commitments from 4 years ago. So, look, I think people in this province realize with 2 weeks to go.
All right, let's jump in here. We don't want to keep Randall waiting. Our time is limited as it is. Randall Denley is back with us, author and columnist covering the Ontario election for Post Media. Thanks for coming on again this week. 2 weeks down, 2 weeks to go. Randall Denley, how's it look from your point of view?
Getting to you yet, Rob?
Sorry?
Is the excitement getting to you
Oh,
yet?
my gosh. I just can't wait till election night to find out how it all ends. So, where do things stand right now, do you think?
Well, I think the PCs are going to win this easily. I think the Liberals will come second. The NDP will come third.
Okay.
There's been an awful lot of polls done in this election, and they all pretty much tell the same story. Stephen Duca might say, well, we don't know how people are going to vote in Ontario, but I think we have a fair inkling. Nobody's saying the Liberals are going to win this, that's for sure.
Right.
Interesting to see him, though, Rob, out touting Doug Ford's gas tax reduction policy.
At a gas station. He's at a gas station. And
particularly as a Liberal leader. Do you remember something from the federal Liberal Party? They seem to think that the gas tax, the carbon tax, would be the way to save the planet. It has to keep going up no matter what's going on. But then we get down to Liberals provincially. No, cut it. It's got to be cut.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Bit of a mixed message there.
Okay. Very interesting. Let's talk about some of the local races here. I particularly want your take on what you think is going to happen in a riding that you ran in a couple of times. Ottawa, West Nepean. It was really, really close last time. I mean, less than 200 votes. It's a bellwether. Ottawa, West Nepean's gone with the winning party every single election since it was created. And that was no exception last time. Jeremy Roberts just squeaked right through there. There's a strong NDP machine out there, make no mistake. Alex Cullen and his people organizing out there. They're hoping that they can flip that. They sound confident, but what do you think? What do you think is going on in your old stopping ground?
Rob, I didn't see much evidence of a strong NDP machine in the two races that I ran in Ottawa, West Nepean.
Okay.
They didn't do very well, but I think last time there was the perfect situation for the PCs because the NDP and the Liberals are almost exactly tied. And then let Jeremy Roberts get through with, as you say, a very narrow margin. The NDP candidate, Chandra Pasman, says, well, look at how close I was the last time. So, I'm going to win this time, which, of course, you would expect her to say. But the problem is that her party was much more popular last time than it is this time. And I think that's going to take her down, not up. I would expect the Liberal vote to rebound there. Whether it rebounds enough to take the riding is the question, really, but I don't see it going to the NDP.
Okay. Do you think the same holds true for Ottawa Centre?
Yeah, it's a more interesting one, I think, because the Liberals have fielded a good candidate there, I think. Katie Gibbs, a young scientist with a strong interest in the environment. She's the right sort of candidate for Ottawa Centre. it has been a Liberal riding, sometimes NDP, but often Liberals. Certainly not one the NDP's got a lock on, I wouldn't say. And if the Liberals are coming up and the NDP is going down, then I think that's probably a threat to Joel Harden, the NDP incumbent there. So those would be the two, I think, to really watch on election night locally for potential change.
Yeah. It looks like all the other incumbents are, pretty safe. I would have to.
I think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, we had an election the last time that the Liberals did better in Ottawa than they did anyplace else in Ontario. So,
right.
If you got elected as a Liberal in 2018, you're definitely going to get elected as a Liberal this time. If the Conservatives are going to win, then I think Conservative candidates who hold their seats now are going to get reelected, with the possible exception of Jeremy Roberts, although I think he'll still come through.
Okay. Andrea Horwath in Ottawa yesterday said, well, I don't know if I have all the information I need if I was the premier about the new Civic. My gosh, it'd be nice if the politicians would just get out of this. I mean, my gosh, come on.
It's frustrating how little attention Ontario politicians pay to what's really going on in Ottawa. This is the biggest provincial thing in Ottawa right now, is this hospital.
Yeah.
And she's got it completely wrong, either through ignorance or misdirection. But Doug Ford, in his ham-handed way of slamming this hospital down here, it should be where the people want it, and so on. Well, that was done under the Liberals, for one thing. It was politics at the federal level, and the issue now isn't the site. That's done. It's not going to change. She's pandering a bit to voters in Ottawa Centre by pretending that it might, I guess. But really, the challenge there is the fundraising. It's $700 million they're trying to raise. That's the big thing. And as a great champion of public health care, of course, I would have maybe expected her to say, well, that seems unreasonable. It seems too high. An NDP government would pay more of the cost of a hospital.
Yeah, we think the hospital should include the equipment in the hospital.
It's an interesting way the provincial government funds hospitals, and it's been like this for decades under various governments. But, you want a hospital? Okay, we'll build you one. You want stuff in it? Well, that's really up to you. That's a local choice. You want stuff in it.
Yeah.
Beds? Doesn't come with beds. It is kind of an outmoded policy, and I think it's one that was meant for smaller projects, but the scope of the fundraising required in Ottawa, $700 million, that is a huge challenge, and it's going to suck up every charitable dollar in the city for years. It's going to make it very difficult, I think, for every other type of charity or even other hospital charities to meet their fundraising targets if the Civic is absorbing that much money.
Okay. Yeah, Randall wrote a great column about that this week in the paper. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. How's that new book going?
Very well, Rob. Thanks.
Good.
We had a great show at the EY Centre, their spring show. We sold a lot of books and met a lot of new readers who hadn't read my series, and a lot of people coming back to do more. The next time they're going to see me is June 4th. I'm going to be at the Carp Market, not too far from home.
Okay, good stuff. June 4th. Okay. June 4th, Carp Market, and if people want to buy your book, they can go to your website, which is what, Randall?
RandallDenley.com. I thought I made it kind of easy for people to remember there. So you can order them there, I sign them, and we ship them.
Excellent. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Hey, my
Enjoy
pleasure,
the
Rob.
excitement of the campaign in the final 2 weeks here, Randall.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, read him in the National Post and the Ottawa Citizen. Randall Denley, Ontario Politics, this week, right after the news on City News.
One for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, May 19th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, some light rain and 9 degrees in Ottawa, also 9 degrees in Smiths Falls. And here's what's making news this hour. If you're planning any road trip this long weekend, best to fill up tomorrow. The price will drop at midnight, adding to a price drop at midnight last night. The average will be under $2 a litre after topping out this week around $2.08. No word what's going to happen Saturday morning to the price of gasoline. Advance polls are opening in a half an hour across Ontario for the June 2nd election. If you have your candidate firm in mind, check your voter's card for the voter information. They did begin appearing in mailboxes this week. If it has not arrived, you can always check the Ontario Elections website. Advance voting in every riding province-wide today to May 28th. Open 10 in the morning till 8 in the evening all days. Food prices climbed almost 10% year over year in April, and experts say more Canadians could be at risk of going hungry. Inflation is outpacing grocery budgets. U of T professor Valerie Teruzek says worsening inflation rates are likely to raise the prevalence and severity of food insecurity. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's time for Ontario politics. This week, with 2 weeks to go, 2 weeks from today is Election Day in the province of Ontario. So we're welcoming back Lindsay Maskell, Liberal strategist. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Rob.
Morning, Lindsay. Great to hear from you. Andrew Brander, Vice President, Crestview Strategy. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
Everybody's wonderful. Okay. Okay.
Great.
Okay. All right. So it's been a few days since the debate. Andrew, let's start with you this morning. Your main takeaways from the debate. What did you think of the one and only big, huge, primetime televised leaders debate?
I mean, I think we debated the debate a lot. I'm sure. I feel like there was more talk about it after than what's been warranted, considering how sort of up to expectations it really was. I really, my honest review of it, everyone did kind of exactly what they needed to do.
Okay.
And there was really no standouts from my perspective. I would say the debate about who won the debate, though, Mike Schreiner came out looking really good. Historic, obviously, for him being there, but he was able to use that. Mm-hmm. And I do think he'll get a bit of a small bump from the amount of people who have just had zero exposure to him up until this point. So for him to be able to use that time to showcase his platform was really engaging, obviously, for audience members, and I think he performed exceptionally well, given the fact that it's the first time he's on that stage.
Okay, Lindsay.
Well, the surprise of the night was actually, and this is rare because I usually have not said good things about Andrea, but she was actually so much better, and I thought she did a great performance in her previous debates, but she didn't show up on debate night in 2022.
Okay.
She was so much better in 2018, so that actually, I think, hurt her. I would not have wanted to wake up on an NDP campaign morning post-debate. And a lot of that is because it's not as much about the debate, but the takeaways from the debate. And all of the big exchanges and clips ended up being between Del Duca and Ford. That's what people were seeing afterwards, because very few people would watch the debate, right? So it's what did they see afterwards? What were the heated exchanges? And, there's never any knockout punches or, people kind of do what they need to do, deliver their lines. But there is something when you don't kind of rise to the occasion and are kind of omitted from the clips, which is the damage that was done to Andrea on debate night. And I would say the interesting thing, of course, Stephen Del Duca understood the assignment to get introduced to Ontarians. I think people saw the Google search piece afterwards that he was triple compared to all of the other candidates being Googled.
Is that really
night.
a good thing? Is that really a good thing?
It is if
really?
they heard what he was saying.
Like if you're 12 days into election campaign and people are saying, who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
Like, really, shouldn't that have been done a year ago? I don't understand this, introduced. I know this is a narrative in the Look, I know this was a narrative. This is a narrative. Well, we're introducing Stephen Del Duca. You should have, the groundwork should have been laid for this a year ago.
I think it's that what he was saying was capturing attention, so they were Googling, not just who is this guy. But I also say, 2018, Ford was not even the leader 6 weeks before the election. So, Ontarians got introduced and were clearly searching.
Yeah. But he was known, though. He wasn't a complete stranger. Right?
I think he was
Ford was known.
I think he was known in Toronto.
Right.
But growing up not in Toronto, I think if I had gone to my home ridings, they did not know who Doug Ford was.
So here we are. We're a few days later. There's been some polling out in the last 24 hours. Do you think that that debate had any impact on the campaign, on voter intentions?
No. I don't think it did. I think Lindsay's right in the sense that Andrea played it safe, but they all did, right? There were so many more opportunities out there to really hold Doug Ford to account for on his record, and instead we didn't actually see all that much of it, and everyone was playing it exceptionally safe. And I think I agree, with Lindsay's point, which is there really is, it's kind of these things, used to be exciting and people got all excited about the opportunity for a knockout punch. Every time we talk about these debates, everyone references, the Mulrooney debate, which was in the same year I was born. So, I haven't seen one of those. But I really don't know why there is so much energy put into these things. You think about what the leaders could do, with that time in these campaigns, and I'm just glad there aren't more of these things, because I think in a 28-day campaign for leaders to have to take off the 48 hours before to crack down and study and the kind of games that are exchanged beforehand in terms of people trying to throw leaders off message. It seems like a waste of opportunity.
Now here's the big question. Okay. Schreiner has COVID. Andrea's tested positive for COVID. Was the debate a super spreader? Right? Who knows? Right? Who knows? They were all pretty close there.
I certainly hope not, right? And, we definitely, this is so unfortunate and tough timing for them. But, we also are campaigning in a time where we've been through 2 years of the pandemic, and so much happens, can be done virtually. You have other people that can attend events for you. Right. There's still lots of opportunity, and, 2 weeks left on this campaign is a lot of time. If they are hopefully they're feeling well. I know they're both vaccinated. Hopefully they have a very quick recovery, and they would actually only be off for the trail for 5 days. But if they are feeling well, I expect that we will see lots of creative virtual presence as well as media veils, and we now live in that time that people are used to that, but it will bring more conversation about COVID back to the election.
Absolutely. Okay. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
I was just going to add quickly that it certainly will shift, the conversation a little bit. One thing I would say is that all the important announcements, Rob, have been made.
Okay.
This campaign is effectively over with advanced polling starting today. All the leaders have made their major commitments. So really, the last half of the campaign really is about the importance of showing that momentum, and that's going to be really hard for someone like Ms. Horvath to do while in isolation. While no doubt Mr. Del Duca is going to be gathering, in front of crowds of thousands of people.
Let's talk about this New Democrat claim that all they need is 10 more seats. They're actually running an ad.
Every election, it feels like nothing changes. Back and forth, conservatives, liberals.
Yeah, I know. But this time, we can change the game.
How's that?
All right, well, Andrea Horvath and the NDP have 40 seats, right? With just 10 more, the NDP can win.
Really?
Yep.
And stop Ford's cuts to healthcare.
Right. Plus, they're going to train and hire 30,000 nurses and bring mental health care into OHIP.
Well, then I'm totally voting NDP.
Totally. Authorized by the CFO for the Ontario NDP.
Totally. The NDP insists all they need, 10 more seats, we could beat the PCs. What do you think of the math? What do you think of the math? Lindsay?
I was excellent in math, and that is not how this works. So the most important thing is, in 2018, when the NDP did their best and had their best chance, they did not take one seat from a Conservative. Right? So this is just not the way that is going to happen, especially with them now. With Abacus polling down last night, had them below 20%. So in their best election, they have never taken a seat from a Conservative. So that is a creative narrative, but also, this involves them needing to hold seats that they picked up in some of the biggest Liberal strongholds when everybody, there was a clear message to the provincial Liberals in 2018. And even Conservatives have been on air talking about how that's changed and things have normalized and the popularity of the Liberal brand has come back with some strong candidates, particularly in the 416 and in Ottawa, and areas where Liberals win easily. So it has been, the hard work of doing a campaign, but have traditionally been Liberal strongholds. Okay. So the math doesn't add up.
Math doesn't add up. What do you think, Andrew? 10 more seats. All we need is 10 more seats. It takes 63 for a majority government, by the way. It takes 63,
yeah, exactly. And I'd agree with Lindsay. The NDP narrative is quite interesting on this. I would say in the same breath, though, the Liberal narrative is quite interesting as well to put their positioning out there, and I think the truth can be found somewhere sort of in the middle. City News ran a little comparison of some of the closest ridings to watch this past week. The online version of that. One of the ridings included in that was one I've mentioned before that I'm very closely involved with, which is Brampton North. And it still shows that the NDP is in a close second place to the PCs who now seem to be leading in that riding, according to this one poll. So I would say to that point, the NDP vote, even if it is, in raw percentage reflected across the province, is actually traditionally much more efficient. The Liberals have a bit more broad-based support across the province, but when you look at how it translates into seats, the NDP's vote could very well be 4 or 5 points behind the Liberals, and a very real scenario where they end up with more seats.
Okay, we'll be right back. we all know, even here in Ottawa, where we sometimes, love to trash Toronto, victory goes through Toronto and rolls through the suburban communities of the greater Toronto area. So that is where this election will be won and lost. We're going to talk about the race in Toronto and the GTA when we come back for Ontario Politics This Week with Lindsay Maskell, Andrew Brander. I'm Rob Snow on City News.
So the Women's Business Network is a volunteer-run association that achieves its strategy and vision by supporting women to achieve their success on their own terms by providing development opportunities, valuable connections within the organization itself, and it facilitates member access to growth within their business and careers.
I mentioned the 2-year absence of the Businesswoman of the Year awards. Obviously difficult, Mira, but certainly an opportunity to work on some new things. Tell us what you've got planned, what you worked on.
Yeah, we really missed putting on the BYAs for the last 2 years because of COVID. It also was unfortunate that we couldn't celebrate the women that were having such a huge impact on our community in Ottawa. So we're really glad that they're back now. As you know, that they've been around since 1983. Mm-hmm. They are a purpose to celebrate the achievements, the professional expertise, and the leadership of all of the outstanding women we have in the National Capital Region. And for the first time this year in 2022, we've introduced 2 new categories, one being the Lifetime Achievement Award and the other one being the Community Champion Award.
Okay, yeah, and let's break it down even further because, as I mentioned, there's different categories and then, of course, different awards within categories. Tell us about some of the returning categories and some of the other awards as well.
So the 2 returning categories that we're bringing back are actually the entrepreneur and the enterprise leaders. Those are very popular in our community. They draw a significant amount of nominations, and they do get a lot of attention because it's very common that we take the opportunity that we want to celebrate the entrepreneurs in our community, especially after the 2 years of being through what they've been through, right? So we're looking for nominees of owners who have significant impact on their businesses, that have seen strong growth in the last little while. And one of the things that we did do to revamp this award was we dissected it into 3 subcategories based on the term that the individuals have been in business for. So you've got from startups that have been around for 1 to 3 years, then we've got the emerging entrepreneurs 3 to 7, and the established entrepreneurs for 7 years and above. So there's really going to be 3 awards or 3 winners within the entrepreneur category itself. And then we've got the Enterprise Leader Award that's also come back. And this is an opportunity for organizations to nominate individuals within their business that display exceptional leadership attributes, positively impact the environment.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
So just where the leaders are, again, Mike Schreiner, unfortunately, has COVID-19, so he's at home. They do some virtual campaigning today. Same with Andrea Horvath, although Andrea's here in Ottawa, in a hotel in Ottawa. Plan is to campaign remotely, announce a jobs plan at around 10:15. Stephen Del Duca, we aired a little bit of Mr. Del Duca planning to cut the gas tax, he says. He was at a gas station in Mississauga this morning. Then he's meeting with some of what's known as the ethnic media in Mississauga. Meet with small business owners at a place called the Sunset Grill in Mississauga. Then go to Brampton. And then in Ottawa this evening at Villa Marconi for an event there with party supporters on Baseline Road, Villa Marconi on Baseline Road. So that's Del Duca's day. And Doug Ford is in Niagara-on-the-Lake today, 10:30 announcement where I don't know what it's about other than he's going to be getting it done, whatever he's going to do in the probably involve a backhoe or something. So there we go. Now, both of you are in Toronto, so you'll be much more familiar with what's going on there than we are. But the Liberals, Lindsay, it looks like they have a big lead over the PCs and the NDP in Toronto. The NDP picked up some Toronto seats 4 years ago from the Liberals when the Liberals were so unpopular 4 years ago. It looks like the Liberals could be poised to take a lot of them back in the 416. Let's start with the 416 and then we'll jump to the 905. What's happening on the ground in Toronto there, Lindsay?
Well, yeah, after the 2018 election, it was down to Kathleen Wynne's seat and Mitzi Hunter's seat in Scarborough as the two held seats by the Liberals. So that is the one big reason why the NDP's math doesn't add up. Because there is a very strong team of candidates in the 416 area, all the way from Etobicoke over to Scarborough and north up to Thornhill. And they're getting a lot of, the slate of candidates that Stephen Del Duca attracted is getting a lot of attention. Stephanie Bowman, who's in Board of Bank of Canada, we have a chance of electing the first Filipino MPP. We have just some, an impressive slate of doctors and nurses and medical professional people that got into politics because of COVID-19. So it has more adjusted to its normal feeling, truthfully, that 2018 was an anomaly campaign on, people were done with Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals after a number of years, and we understood that and had a lot of listening and work to do over the last 4 years to rebuild. But they really did build an impressive slate of candidates that are out working hard and doing campaigns that feel more like what the typical campaign for a Liberal had been, or what a federal Liberal campaign would look like in Toronto at this juncture, that are, well-funded, lots of volunteers and lots of excitement. You can even see that in the schedule, that the leader's keeping, right, of getting to a lot of ridings, a lot of touch points, a lot of people events to keep that momentum swing going in the right direction.
I mean, Abacus has the Liberals leading the NDP in Toronto by 20 points, Andrew. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's significant, and to Lindsay's point, credit to the Liberals here on one thing. This narrative of the 3 or 4 candidates that they had to toss is really sort of a tale of two stories, which is the Liberals did a really good job at recruiting some star candidates and some impressive folks in riding that they were making a play for. And the problem with that is that they focused their efforts so intently on these ridings that some very blatant oversights in some other ridings were allowed to sort of cloud that message. But I think Lindsay's right. There are some really good candidates that are in strategically placed ridings like St. Paul's and other places where the target clearly is the NDP, and that's why that's further proof that the Liberals have always been approaching this election, regardless of the narrative that they're spinning now, is that this is a rebuild election for them, where they are targeting to win back those seats from the NDP.
Okay.
Well, you will notice, Andrew, the ridings I did actually mention were the ones that are held by Conservatives as well. So there is there are some Toronto seats held by Conservatives, and Stephen Del Duca has been into those ridings particularly.
Okay, let's talk about 905. What's going on there? What's your sense of it?
So the 905 is interesting because it is the entire loop around Toronto, right? And it varies wildly from Mississauga and Brampton to the far parts of York region, like Christina Elliott's seat, for example, where she's not running again. There's a real mix there of sort of what we'll call toss-up campaigns, right? Lots of three-way races, particularly in Brampton. So where all three parties have done well. So it depends on, really down to the wire on those campaigns. Yeah. The Liberals are doing extraordinarily well in Mississauga and in the Bramptons. I do think that as you get into the far parts of the York region, some further parts of Durham region, those have not been have been traditional Conservative strongholds. So those numbers represent ridings that have a total different makeup of Liberal strongholds, three-way races, and Conservative strongholds. So those numbers feel. It seems to me
we're just a little tight on time. It seems to me that the lead is not what it once was for the Tories there, for the PCs there.
Yeah, and that's
it's narrowed. It's narrowed. Yep. It has narrowed. Okay, Andrew, what do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it has narrowed, and you're seeing that in the shift of Del Duca starting to talk a bit more about these issues that he's ignored. And
he's at a gas station today. He's at a gas station.
Well, exactly, right.
Yeah.
Coming out criticizing the Tories' plan to support commuters, the license plate stickers, the new highways, the cut on fuel prices, and a couple weeks later, he's starting to talk about those things, and that's why he's starting to see the numbers respond to those. So, I'm glad he's finally come around on some of those issues, those pocketbook issues, and starting to focus on the things that matter to commuters and people who motorists more specifically who come in. And make it into the cities to work, and that will help his numbers.
Okay. Hey, you remember the Working Families Coalition? In case you forgot, this is what they used to sound like in previous elections.
Imagine this. You get your pink slip thanks to Tim Hudak. Your family is devastated. Your friends in shock. Your future's in doubt. No money coming in for mortgage, tuition, taxes. Now, multiply that by 100,000. Communities across Ontario will pay the price.
So now Working Families Coalition used to include a lot of trade unions, but now the Ford PCs have scored 6 endorsements from trade unions. Andrew, how big a deal is that, and who gets the credit?
It is. Minister McNaughton gets the credit for that. He's put in a lot of work. The last 2 iterations of the PC's Working for Workers bill really have honed in on the matters that have been important, and there's always been areas of alignment for Conservatives on this, and I really don't know. Each election cycle, each leader is a different sort of cult of personality, if you will, when it comes to the leadership of, traditional private sector unions. But I would say that this government has invested a lot of effort into that. And I will say, as someone who was extremely skeptical of that in the earlier years of the Ford government in terms of the dividends that would pay, I would say they are a big part of what Ford's counting on.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron O'Toole tried the same thing at the federal level and it didn't work, but it seems to be paying off here, at least in endorsements, if they mean anything. But Lindsay, a quick word, 30 seconds or less on trade union support.
Of course, the Conservatives ended the ability for unions to communicate, right? So you have
to flood the airwaves with advertising.
So you have a mix of public sector and private sector unions, and they're the teachers, all of those, the nurses, all of those public PSWs, all of those groups that are those unions that were so highly and negatively affected by the Ford government are out campaigning against him. But in all fairness, when you have an infrastructure agenda, and the Conservatives did have a very rough start with the trade unions with Bill 66, but then shuffled the decks, put in Monty, and he's done a good job on building those relationships, but also rolling back that first really rough year with Bill 66. So they made that movement, but you're going to see there's a lot of unions that are been highly affected, particularly in the healthcare sector, that are not that would be in a new coalition if they were allowed to be on the airwaves.
Okay. All right, 2 weeks to go. We'll see what happens. Thank you. Talk to you next
Have a
week.
great week.
Bye-bye. You too. Andrew Brander, Vice President Crestview. Lindsay Maskell with her own firm, Liberal Strategist. That's Ontario Politics this week. When we come back, it'll be the Talkback Hour. 13.5% over 3 years. That's the ask from PSAC for its government workers. They want a 13.5% raise over 3 years. Fair deal? Or too much? It's your money, after all. 750-1310, Rob Snow Show, City News.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, May 19th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, some scattered showers in the region in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 9 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Advance polls are now open in every riding across the province for the June 2nd election. This is happening as COVID has taken a couple of leaders off the campaign trail so far today. Here's our Queen's Park reporter, Richard Southern.
COVID surprisingly hasn't come up very much on the campaign so far. You would have thought a few months ago, this election's going to be about COVID. It hasn't. But the events of the past 12 hours have reminded us that COVID is still an issue. Last night, Green Party leader Mike Schreiner put out a statement saying he has tested positive. He's feeling well, but he's going to isolate. Then this morning, NDP leader Andrea Horwath said she too has tested positive. In a statement, she says, quote, "We've been doing our best to keep everyone safe, and I'll keep doing that by staying in isolation." All four of these party leaders, just over 48 hours ago, were in a small studio together for the debate on Monday night. So far, though, PC leader Doug Ford, by all accounts, has tested negative. In fact, Doug Ford's team has just confirmed to City News that he has taken a COVID test and that it is negative. I just moments ago had a chance to talk to Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca, who too tells me he has tested negative. So Mr. Del Duca, he's going to continue with his campaign events, as is seemingly PC leader Doug Ford. He's scheduled to talk to the media at 10:30 this morning from Niagara-on-the-Lake. Richard Southard, City News.
And the Liberal leader's schedule of events today includes a stop in Ottawa at 8 o'clock tonight. City News time, 10:05. And now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A cooler day for us today. A few showers at times, a high about 15 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, will drop to 8 degrees. And heads up tomorrow, it will be warm and humid, 26 feeling like 31. A few showers, scattered thunderstorms possible Friday. For today, the high, 15.
And right now, scattered showers, 9 degrees in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. Globe Alive Capital says it has signed a network and spectrum sharing agreement with TELUS in an effort to boost the bid to purchase Freedom Mobile. Now, Freedom is up for sale as a result of Rogers' deal to buy Shaw Communications, that is Freedom's current owner. The sale of Freedom, expected to be a condition of the deal's approval by Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, is seen as the best way to maintain competition in the wireless space while allowing that merger to move forward. The deal is still facing opposition, though, from the Competition Bureau. Rogers is the parent company of City News. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Let's make a deal. Hey, you remember that? Let's make a deal. 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 $13.5% over 3 years. That is the ask from the largest union representing federal government workers, public servants. A 13.5% raise over 3 years, 4.5% per year for the next 3 years. Okay, that is the ask from PSAC. Public servants, they work for you. It's your money. Is this demand, we're going to keep track of your answers here, okay? Is this demand fair? That's a fair request from this union. Given inflation, the inflation report came out yesterday, 6.8% inflation. This isn't even a cost of living increase, it could be argued. Or, given the current state of affairs and the government's balance sheet, the size of the deficit, the size of the debt, is it just too much? What do you think? 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. It's 13.5% over 3 years. Okay, that's 4.5% a year. Let's make a deal. I'd love to hear from you right now. I'd love to hear from you. We have every line available. We won't keep you too long on the air. 750-1310, 750-1310. Yeah, PSAC is the Public Service Alliance of Canada, largest union representing federal government workers. Okay, 13.5%. That was the demand. Wage increase for 3 years. 4.5% a year for in each of the next 3 years. The union says it's justified because of the rising cost of living, because of inflation. And the inflation rate came out yesterday. It was 6.8%. That's the strongest inflation reading in 31 years, right? Food inflation, almost 10%. Okay, but these are government workers. These employees work for you. For all intents and purposes, their salaries come from your tax dollars. So what do you think about the demand from the union for a 13.5% pay increase over the next 3 years? Do you think it's fair, given the rising cost of living, the increases in the cost of living? It's harder and harder to make ends meet and shouldn't be any different for government workers. Or is it too much? Is it out of step with the kinds of raises other workers are getting? Workers in the private sector, for example. Let me know what you think about this. I'm going to keep track of your answers. I'd love to get your opinion on this because I think this is a sign of things to come. 750-1310, 750-1310. Okay. Betsy, yes, line 1. Betsy in Ottawa, you're on City News. Good morning, Betsy.
Good morning, Rob.
13.5% over 3 years. Fair or too much?
Way too much. I'm appalled.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely appalled. What about pensioners that get like 0% increase?
Okay.
What about truck drivers that are out on the road for 12 to 14 hours a day?
Okay.
I could go on and on and on.
You think it's out of step with what other workers are dealing with?
Oh my God!
And people on fixed incomes and pensions and this sort of thing.
Yeah,
right?
way out of step. And I mean, they get so many different kinds of leaves. They've got maternity leave. Mm-hmm. They've got leave, like when somebody dies, they get a week off for that, for compassionate leave. They've got benefits that carry on after they've finished work. Mm-hmm. Whereas the rest of us...
They have very good pensions, yeah, very good pensions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've got it all and they want more.
Okay, so too much. Okay, thank you. What about, just hold on, though. What about 6.5% inflation? What about 6.5% inflation? Doesn't that make a difference?
It makes a huge difference.
Right.
But it also makes a huge difference to people that are on a fixed income.
Right, okay.
I'm on a pension.
Right.
When we go to fill up the car, we only put $50 in the tank.
Yeah. Okay, Betsy. All right, thank you, Betsy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
nice to hear from you. She's thinking too much, out of step. Tony in Orleans, you're on City News. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Rob.
The ask is 13.5% over 3 years. They've walked away from negotiations right now. Is it fair or is it too much?
I think it's too much.
Too much. Okay.
Too much. I would like the previous caller. I'm a pensioner. I'm not going to get 13 over the next 4 years, but I'm expected to pay that 13. I just wanted to make an observation. Isn't it funny how all this happens after we gave $14 an hour and said, let's give it a cost of living or a affordable living wage for people that are at the low income. We give them $14, $15 an hour. Inflation takes off, and now all the big unions are going, hey, we need a pay raise too.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, it's the snowball.
That it's feeding through the pay scale, in other words,
absolutely.
Right? If this person wants 15, well, I've been there longer than this person. I'm worth 20. When I've been there longer than that guy who's making 20, I should get 25, and on it goes like that kind of thing.
On it goes, and like your previous caller, those that are self-employed, well, the only way they get a pay raise is up in the rates of what they do for a living.
Right.
So that's going to cost the people more. It's just a snowball effect. It's just plain stupid.
Okay, well, the government hasn't said yes. Treasury Board is the negotiator on the other side, and it is, in the paper today it says less than 8%. City News is reporting 7 over 4 years, which the union calls a disgrace. 7 over 4 years.
You know what they could do is the 7% top-up, if you will, for cost of inflation, and then we'll see what happens next year.
Okay.
And let's see if we can get inflation back under control and people's wages can get tagged to inflation.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Yep. Okay. 750-1310, 750-1310. PSAC, the demand in collective bargaining is 13.5% over 3 years, 4.5% a year for the next 3 years. Fair or too much, keeping in mind inflation is running at 6.8%. Joanne in Ottawa, you're on City News. Fair or too much, Joanne?
I think it's way too much.
Too much. Why do you say that?
Well, cost of living has gone up, yes, but I'm a registered nurse, and we get 1% raise. And we're dealing with life and death every day. 1%. That's because we are full of ladies, and our union is very weak. And if my husband owns his own company, he's offering 3% raise per year for the next 3 years, and his employees went 89% for a strike because they didn't want that. They wanted more. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
So why are we being, the nurses, why are we being like at the low of the totem pole when we should be actually getting more than and everybody else.
Okay. What is it called? ONA, I guess, Ontario Nurses Association. What if they came to Doug Ford and said, we want 13.5% over 3 years? Would you think that was fair?
We would never get it.
You'd never get it. Okay. Well, you never get it unless, not if you don't ask for it, you won't get it, I guess. All right. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Okay. Too much. Okay. All right. Inflation is 6.8%. I'm just going to keep reminding you of that. Okay. Riel?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. 13.5% over 3 years is the ask from public servants. Too much or fair?
Oh, I think overall it's probably fair because, the government's not doing anything about inflation right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, most people's reaction is too much is too much. Fine. It sounds like a lot of money, but if the government's not going to as well look after inflation, it's not out of line. And the second thing is, you got to remember, that's an asking. They're not going to get that. They're going to go to arbitration or whatever, and they're going to end up with a lot less than that.
Maybe.
So,
well, the counteroffer, as I said, is less than 8% over 4 years is what the...
Right.
So less than 2% a year over the next 4 years is what Treasury Board wants.
Under the circumstances, that's not high.
Well, now with 6.8% inflation, you're taking a pay cut in real dollar terms. Each year, right? So
even though it sounds outrageous to most people, it's not that outrageous.
you don't think it's outrageous? Okay, all right.
No.
Okay, thank you. You're the first person to say that this morning. I'm going to stop here. One line available. Anne, Leo, Sasha, take your call. There's one line. It's yours if you want it. 13.5% is the ask, as the last caller out demand. As the last caller mentioned, will they get it? No, but that's what they're demanding, and they're not negotiating. They've walked away from the table. The union negotiators have walked away from the table. And they're not ruling out a strike. Not right away. Maybe in a few months. They're not ruling out a strike. But they say they will escalate job action. 750-1310. Back after this Talkback Hour Rob Snow Show. City News.
Sean Callahan from behind his own net. Moskowitz. There's a giveaway. Here's Byers. Shot right on. Mrazek has it.
Ottawa has, for the most part, carried the play in the last 3 or 4 games here, and this is when Barrie's got their chances on poor puck management, puck decisions right there. Ill-advised pass, not a good pass, a turnover, creates the first scoring chance and shot on net for the Barrie Colts in this game. This is what Ottawa's got to do better of tonight, is making sure that their puck management is good. They're crisp and they're solid when they have it.
That's the first action. Scores! The Barrie Colts draw first blood. It's Greg Such. Smith out there now for Ottawa. He's going to head in front of the net. Oh, digging away, scores! Dalton Smith tapped in front of the net. We are tied at 1. Back to the point. Callahan shot's blocked. And here comes McDonald with a head of steam. Shot scores! McDonald with the long shot. And the Barrie Colts take a 2-1 lead. Back to the point. CC walks. Shot. Scores! Cody Ceci.
It might have been deflected right away, right when he took the shot. Something changed on the way to the net.
It dipped as it got close to the net. I noticed that. And good cycle. Gus does a great job of being patient with the puck, bringing 2 guys to him.
And he'll win it back to the point. Ceci. Here's Prince. Traffic in front. Down low. Trying to get scores! With 24.1 seconds to go. An icing. Waved off at the last second. Bahena trying to track it down. Rolls deep into the Ottawa zone. Ceci to meet him. Trying to center it. Bouncing puck in the crease. Scores! With 8.7 to go. Mark Scheifele ties it at 3. Force McNeil to hustle back. Niederberger steers it away. Gustus right on it. Scores! Brad Gustafson from the boards. The Ottawa 67s advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. The little man comes up big for the Ottawa 67s.
He'll never score a bigger goal.
No, that's for sure.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
We're playing Let's Make a Deal. 13.5% over 3 years. That's the ask from the largest union for federal government employees. 13.5% raises over 3 years, 4.5% a year. Fair or too much? Right back to it here. Leo in Barrhaven. Good morning, Leo.
Good morning, Rob.
Morning, Leo. Fair or too much?
I just want to come up to a point about this. Are you talking about them going back to work to get the raise, or still working remotely from home?
No, they still want to do the hybrid work model. Yeah.
So they still want to work from home.
Still want to work from home.
They don't have to pay gas. They don't have to pay parking passes. They're saving a lot of money with all that. So I don't think they're in that bad a shape.
Okay. So do you think it's too much?
Oh, absolutely. They'll probably be better off now without a raise than they were with the raise.
Okay. But inflation is at 6.8%, though.
As a matter of fact, Trudeau might just say, okay, you want the raise, but you got to go to work, though.
Right.
You can't work from home anymore.
Oh, really? Okay. But inflation, though, 6.8%. What about the cost of living?
The cost of living?
Yeah. Inflation's running at 6.8%, Leo. Strongest in 31 years, right? So.
Yeah, but I'm not getting a raise, and I spend $80 a fuel in my vehicle every day.
Okay.
That's $400 a week.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here, Leo. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, Leo. I'm just trying to present both sides. Okay, thank you, Leo. Yep. Anne in Winchester. Anne, you're on City News. Good morning.
Hi, Rob.
13.5% over 3 years. Fair or too much?
Gotta tell you, it's kind of a bitter pill to swallow.
Too much, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
My industry, we've been locked down at 1% by Mr. Snow. Doug Ford, I should say, sorry. And it is a bitter pill to swallow when you consider these people, since COVID started, has been working from home. They haven't had...
Oh, that's too bad. We lost Anne. I think she's a nurse working in healthcare, again, talking about Bill 124, which caps salaries for nurses. Other people in the broader public service in Ontario cap their annual increases at 1%. If that's Anne in Winchester, can you put her right back on the air, David? Is that Anne? No, it's not her. Okay, if she calls back, we'll let her finish her thought there. That's too bad. Sasha in Ottawa. Good morning. You're on City News.
How's it going?
It goes, sir. 13.5% over 3 years. Fair or too much?
With inflation at 6%, it's still taking the pay cuts. A lot of the callers seem to be mad that they're not getting raises, which, again, I didn't get one either. Still have to deal with the raising prices of gas, food, and everything.
Yep.
I'd love one, but again, it's people are mad because they have a good union that will fight for them and get them. Like, maybe we should all unionize so we can all get raises like this.
Okay, so you think it's fair?
Right, at the end of the day, I do think it's fair, because these people, like, mind you, like, if you're just looking at the individual, if you're on your own and you get the raise, then you're good for you. But a lot of these people have kids, family, mortgages, everything is going up. And we're supposed to just not give them a pay raise because we aren't getting one? It just kind of doesn't seem right that everyone should now suffer because it's a rough time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sasha. Okay. Fair enough, sir. This call here is Mitch in Nepean, a wonderful place to be in. Mitch.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Good. Fair or too much, this request?
It's fair.
Fair. Okay.
People don't seem to understand that our collective agreement always expires, and it takes 4 years for us to get a collective agreement to be signed. So in that time, we're not getting a raise or anything like that. Even the one we currently have right now has been expired since June 21st, 2020. So we keep waiting and waiting. And last collective agreement wasn't signed that great either. We didn't get that much at all. And then inflation has increased 6.1. People don't even understand that. We don't have it that easy working from home. People think that it's glorious and it's great. I mean, I'm at my computer 8.5 hours a day most times, just working my butt off. So it's not the point where we have it that easy. Gas, lumber, rent, mortgage, everything is skyrocketing. So, I mean, it's not that much because we always have to wait 4 years before we do sign something. And we won't get 4% or whatever it is.
4.5, yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably end up getting maybe 2.5.
Oh, really? Okay.
It'll go back and forth a little bit. I work in HR, so I understand the background of it.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, I think it's completely fair, and it's not as glamorous. And people are complaining that they're not getting a raise. Well, then we are hiring. The government's hiring like crazy, so join the government.
Okay, all right, Mitch. If you can't beat them, join them. Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. There you go, Vern in Barhaven. Vern.
Yeah, hi, Rob.
Hi, Vern.
Yeah.
Fair or too much?
Oh, it's too much. I mean, considering that in the private sector, between the government and the private sector, there's already about a 20 to 25% differential in pay and benefits that's in favor of the government. Plus, as the chap mentioned earlier, they're working from home, and part of your salary is to cover your cost of living. Well, your cost of living has dropped if you're in a hybrid situation. And I remember a month or so ago, there was a labor lawyer on TV from Toronto, and he was saying that even private sector businesses have said since their employees have been working from home, their productivity has dropped up to 20%. So, I mean, I'm sure the same thing is happening in the government. So
okay.
I think there should be certainly a drop in those asks.
All right. Thank you, Vern. Thank you. Anne, okay, we've reconnected with Anne in Winchester. Anne, you dropped out there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. You sound much better now. So you thought you think it's too much, and then we kind of lost you there. So
yeah, I think it is too much. I mean, I understand the cost of living and everything going up. It's just there's not just government employees who are affected by all of this. And I mean, yes, I am by my 1%. Raise lockdown sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, who are on disability pensions, single moms who are getting help through social services. Everyone is affected by this. And I think if the government awards the 13% to their employees, I think really they need to take a good hard look in their own backyard and make an increase all around and stop locking down people's wages. I think that would be a good idea, since a lot of nurses, depending on what your practice is, are underpaid as it is for what we do, and I think everyone deserves a fair shot at the ability to be able to live comfortably.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Got to run. Thank you. Let's take one more before the news. Jennifer, Constance Bay, 13.5% over 3 years, 4.5% a year is the ask from the union. The government has said no so far, but what do you think of the ask from the union, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think it's greedy. They get raises all the time. Maybe the government should take the money, put it into gas rebates so the whole country can benefit, everyone can benefit from it rather than just public servants.
All right, Jennifer, thank you. 750-1310 right now. 10 calls in. 7-3. 3 think it's fair. 7 callers have said too much. Pick it up in 3 minutes from now. Rob Snow Show, City News.
Being a crossing guard works great as part of my schedule as a high school student because I still have time to do my tests and assignments while earning a little bit of cash on the side.
Working as a crossing guard fits into my current lifestyle because it gives me a lot of time during the day to pursue hobbies that I'm very interested in.
A friend of mine introduced me to this job. I didn't know it was actually
a paid job.
I always start my day. It's a very little, I guess, few months baby, and she always comes with her dad on a pram, and the smile she has, like, oh my God.
Well, I think the OSC is a very good employer. They show quite clearly that they care about you. They're very polite.
They really make you feel like you're part of a family.
It's fun. I really enjoy it.
Gets us out of the house, too.
Yeah.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, May 19th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now with some light rain, it's 8 degrees in Ottawa, also 8 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. 2 of 4 main provincial party leaders are working from home today instead of pounding the pavement on the election trail. Both Andrea Horwath, actually in a hotel, and Mike Schreiner of the NDP, and Mike Schreiner of the Green Party, it's Andrea Horwath of the NDP, have tested positive for COVID. Both say they are feeling well and continuing their campaigns, but they are both in isolation. Now, some are pointing out all 4 party leaders were together on stage for the debate this week. Both Doug Ford of the PCs and Stephen Del Duca of the Liberals have tested negative. Now, Del Duca will be in Ottawa this evening as part of his tour of the province. He's planning on visiting a not-for-profit seniors home in Nepean. That is scheduled for 8 o'clock tonight. The man accused of killing 10 black people at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, appeared briefly in court today and indicted on first-degree murder charges. 18-year-old Peyton Gendron was silent through the proceeding. As he was led out of court, someone shouted, "Peyton, you're a coward." City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
13.5% over 3 years is the demand from the largest union for federal government workers, PSAC. 13.5% raise over 3 years, or 4.5% a year. Is that request a fair demand since inflation is running at 6.8%? Or is it too much? Right back to the phones at 750-1310. Russ is in Kempville. Good morning, Russ. You're on City News.
Good morning, Rob. How are you today?
I'm good. Fair or too much?
Too much. Way too much. Where's my 13.5% income tax reduction?
Go work for the government. Go work for the government, one caller said.
Why? Well, yeah, but why is the public service the sunshine list? Why are our tax dollars making people wealthy? These are problems. And I understand I fight inflation just like everybody else. Way too much. Or if they want it, how about let's bring in private sector efficiencies for our public servants?
Okay.
I know people that are part of this union. I know people that I've seen work for this union, and I've seen people abuse all of these benefits. Like people take half of the year off and still get paid for it out of our tax dollars. Okay. Meanwhile, I have to work overtime to make things to get by in life.
All right. So, okay. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Russ. Good take. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Shawville. Jeff, you're on City News. Calling from the Pontiac is Jeff on City News.
Good morning. How are you?
Hi, Jeff. Fair or too much? 13.5% over 3 years.
Well, I think it's pretty fair. But,
okay.
I also think that everybody should get it.
Everybody should get it. Okay.
Everybody.
I guess we should all join CPAC then, or PSAC, or whatever it's called. Yeah, PSAC. Yeah.
The people living on pension should get it. Everybody should get it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Something to help with the inflation there. This is ridiculous.
Or maybe we could beat down inflation, get it back down to something more reasonable.
Or the gas prices and everything. Like, I live in Toronto. I work in the city.
Ooh.
Before all this happened, let's say I was paying an eighth of my salary in gas. Now I'm paying a quarter of my salary in gas.
Oh, sure.
Making sense.
Yeah. Boy, how from do you work in Ottawa? Do you work in Ottawa?
Yeah.
And you commute every day from Shawville?
Every day.
How long a drive is that?
It's an hour door to door to my work.
An hour door to door. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it's gone up to a quarter of my salary. $1,000 a month just in fuel. Ridiculous.
$1,000 a month in fuel. My goodness.
At 14%, at $1 a liter, the government's making 14 cents. At $2 a liter, they're making 28 cents.
Oh yeah. This is very good for gas taxes right now that are based on consumption. Yeah,
they're making a ton of money, and we're spending a ton of money.
Okay. All right, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay. Yeah. John in Ottawa. John. Hello.
Mr. Shawville should get an electric car or something to be able to save on commute.
Yes.
1 hour each way. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the callers, it sounds like schoolyard. I'm not getting it, so nobody should get it.
Okay.
It's a big number. It's not going to be that at the end of the day. I mean, this is negotiations. That's how it works.
Right.
But inflation is over 6%.
6.8%. The number came out yesterday. It was 6.8%. Food prices up 10%. So you think it's fair?
Well, I think it's negotiation, right? It's not going to be 30%. And,
okay.
Wages are always
let's say it is. But this is my question: is 4.5% a fair request? And I'm putting in the proviso that inflation is at 6.8%. So in real dollar terms, it's a pay cut.
Absolutely. I think in these times, I think it's the reality of it. And wages are always the last thing to catch up. Everything, all the prices go up, everything goes up, and wages is usually the last one. Public service is often at the front negotiating, because they're negotiating directly with the government. And if wages go up, it gives bargaining power to everybody else to follow suit. Say, hey, the Fed's got this. We should be getting this as well, or getting something similar to that. So, I think it's fair.
All right, John. Thank you. Yep, you've explained it very well. Yep. And I think he has nailed it. And it should not come as a surprise that this is happening. We all should have seen this coming from a mile away. I think it's a sign of things to come. Carpenters are on strike, crane operators are on strike, other tradespeople in solidarity, right? It's the inflationary environment that we're in right now. Any union leader worth their salt is entering collective bargaining right now, looking for cost of living, a true cost of living increase for their members. That's why members are paying union dues. 1% a year, 1.5% a year, 2% a year. Why would any union negotiator settle for that, take that kind of offer to their members, given the kind of news that came out yesterday from Statistics Canada with inflation at 6.8%? The union's asking for 4.5%. Okay? In real dollar terms, pay cut. Even with that kind of raise, it doesn't even keep up with the cost of living. But another way to look at it is it's not what private sector wages are doing. And StatsCan went out of its way to point that out yesterday, that we're all losing purchasing power because wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. Average hourly wages were up 3% year over year in April. April of this year compared to April of last year, that was an increase of 99 cents an hour, bringing the average hourly wage in Canada to $31.06 an hour. StatsCan numbers, not mine. 750-1310, 750-1310. Two lines available for the first time this morning. Bill in Ottawa. Bill, good morning. You're on City News.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, Bill. 13.5% over 3 years. Is that fair or too much?
It's too much unless And the unless is the government sector has very high benefits, very high wages. They have no competition, and we've seen no increase in productivity. We've seen extra people hired. They have job security. They work remotely. Many of them got paid to stay home and do nothing, literally do nothing. Pensioners are getting a tremendous cut in the pension. The deficit is future inflation. So maybe restraining their wages a lot would help them recommend less spending. Certainly the problem will be the executive class will piggyback on anything that the rank and file get. Why not cut the taxes to reduce the cost of living? It's a public service that implemented the inflationary policies. We've seen the number of senior people increase.
What do you mean it was the public service that implemented the inflationary policies? What do you mean?
Well, all the plans.
I mean, they're following the marching orders of their political masters, are they not? On the direction of the cabinet. That's how government works. Right?
We saw in the Mulrooney area where the public service would go slow, make recommendations that were silly. We saw it in the United States where the bureaucracy resisted Trump. So I think these people, their numbers are going up. So maybe they get the cost of living if you cut the number of civil servants by the same percentage.
Okay, all right.
And you increase, so that's a way of increasing productivity. There's no competition, so there's no force to keep productivity up and demands reasonable. Okay. Anyways, that's my take.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Jamie in Ottawa. Jamie, you're on City News. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. That last gentleman articulated a lot of my thoughts quite well, and I hope I can do the same.
Go ahead.
So, over the last 2 years, at one point, over 8 million Canadians lost their jobs, and they were expected to live on $2,000 a month through CERB. And a lot of these government workers maintained their jobs, worked from home, or didn't work from home, worked on so-called reduced hours, maintained all their benefits, all their pay. I didn't hear PSAC saying, let's recoup some of this money because people aren't working. Suddenly, inflation's at 6.7%, and these very same people who lived large for 2 years, putting in pools, renovating, buying homes, suddenly want another pay increase. It's like, I've had enough of this. It's absolutely absurd. The entitlement in the government sector is beyond the pale. Like, it absolutely drives me insane. You would never see this happen in the private sector. And in fact, like the last gentleman said, you have to make cuts. And our government bureaucracy has been bloated for the last 10 years. It needs to be cut back. And if they want to get these raises, fire 20,000 public servants and then divvy up the savings amongst the remaining people.
All right. Okay. Pretty hard line there from Jamie. Grant in Canada, you're on City News. Grant.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Grant.
It's interesting to listen to these guys. I'm an ex-public servant, so I don't know whether that makes me too biased or not, but I certainly can't disagree with
all biases are welcome here.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I can't disagree with the fact that, under the current government, the numbers in the public service have risen way further than they should have, and something needs to be done about that. But with respect directly to the question, is this fair or is this too much? I would see it as fair if it was limited to 1 year.
Okay.
4.5% for 1 year, looking at where we are right now with the cost of living, I don't think is unreasonable. I understand that not all the private sector is getting that, but are we going for the lowest common denominator or not? My concern is that they're not going to get it. But if the government were to say, okay, we'll give you 13.5 over 3 years, and we'll give you 4.5 in each of those years, we won't top load it or bottom load it. The thing is that if a year from now or 2 years from now, the government and the Bank of Canada has gotten inflation down to 2%, 1.5%, then these guys all of a sudden are making 2 or 3 times the cost of living.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can never take it back.
Yeah.
Right? So
okay, we'll give you 4.5%. We'll give you 4.5% for a year, and we'll see where we are in a year.
Exactly. Yeah. The government, I guess, is offering 8 over 4. Over 4, right?
Yeah.
So it seems to me like the government position would be wise if they said, we'll give you 8 over 4, but the way we'll do it is we'll front load it. So we'll give you 4 in the first year, and then reduce it over the next 3.
Right.
right? And recognizing again that right now one would hope it's a blip that's going to even itself out over time. Russia will settle and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Anyway,
all right. Yeah, interesting way to look at it, Grant. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. Everyone's wheeling and dealing here today. Pat in the PN. A wonderful place to be in. Pat, 13.5% over 3 years. It's just a question of, is it fair or too much?
I think it's fair. The last couple of callers have made a lot of sense.
Okay.
And but I think it needs to be in conjunction with a hiring freeze and creating some attrition. So early buyout packages and so on, because the government's too top heavy.
Okay. Yeah, there was a news report a few weeks ago. They hired 20,000 people just last year.
Yeah.
20,000 people. Wow.
That's my opinion. I think it's fair.
All right. Okay.
It needs to go along with cuts and
some rationalization. Okay, Pat.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Great. Yep. You're welcome. 10:45. Back with more of your calls. By the way, we've taken 17 calls. It's 10-7. 10 callers have said it's too much. 7, though, have said, hey, 4.5% a year with 6.5% inflation. That's fair. 750-1310. Your call's next. Rob Snow Show, City News.
Riding requires attention and focus. No distractions, no moment of unawareness, because one brief moment can cost a lifetime of other moments. Everyone deserves to arrive home.
The Maritime provinces are home to some of the oldest settlements in Canadian history. But did you know that one of the first was actually started by black settlers? Take a minute to learn about the rise and untimely fall of Africville. Black people have lived in Nova Scotia since before the founding of Halifax in 1749, but it wasn't until after the American Revolution in the late 1700s and early 1800s that large groups of black settlers began to arrive in the province, many of whom were former slaves promised freedom and land in Nova Scotia. What they encountered when they arrived, however, was racist treatment by their white neighbors and government officials. This pushed many black people to build homes on the outskirts of town instead. But despite the area receiving little support from government officials and lacking necessities like functioning sewage systems, access to clean water, and proper garbage disposals, the tight-knit community persevered, and so Africville was born. For more than 150 years, the small community grew, expanding from just a few homes to a population of over 400 people. Everything changed, however, in 1964 when plans for a new bridge and the idea of urban renewal prompted the municipality to set its sights on Africville's land. Instead of investing in the community, officials approved a relocation program that promised free job training and employment assistance to help residents through relocation. But the reality wasn't so kind. Residents had their belongings moved in city dump trucks, and homes were demolished immediately after their owners left. Of the 400-plus people living in Africville, only 14 residents held clear legal titles to their land, so the rest were only given $500 with the promise of more social aid in the future. Not much else was actually done to support Africville and its residents until 2001, when a United Nations report called for reparations to be paid to the community. In 2010, Halifax Mayor Peter Kelly apologized for the atrocities against Africville as part of a $4.5 million compensation deal. In 2021, Councillor Lindell Smith put forward a 7-part motion to plan for the future of Africville alongside local organizations and the descendants of former residents. Today, there's a public park and museum where Africville once stood to teach visitors about the history of the land and its community. If you've never heard of Africville, you're not alone. The tragic story of this small black community in Nova Scotia is not as well known as it should be.
It's time to talk back
on The Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
13.5% over 3 years is the salary demand. The largest union for the federal government workers, 13.5% over 3 years. Raises 4.5% a year. Fair or too much? With inflation, at 6.8%. Mark in Ottawa. Good morning, Mark. You're on City News.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning. Fair or too much?
I think it's fair. I have a wife that works for the federal government, and I did the statistics once, looked at CRA to see what like the average income was per Canadian, and I could be wrong on like looking at the data, but from what I read, it was like 26 million make $60,000 a year, and that's before taxes. So you take off your taxes, you're making like, I don't know, 49,000 or something like that. So that means a lot of federal workers don't make $100,000 a year. So I don't know, like even at that, our rent costs so much. Like I think we're paying like $1,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment, and I drive.
Oh, if you're paying $1,500 for a 2-bedroom, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, well, we got in like 7 years ago, right? So
okay, all right.
We're kind of lucky on that, right? And
right.
We want to move because we're downtown and everything else. But either way, like I drive Uber Eats full time, and in the last 3 years, Uber has decreased our wages and then decided to do this upfront tipping thing. So now, we're losing more money. Like I think today I put. Was it 9 liters for $30-something or something like that? Because I don't use regular gasoline because it ruins my car. So, imagine how many Uber, I agree totally 100%. And I think even Uber that made $6 billion last year should be giving us a raise too.
All right, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I can tell you what the parliamentary budget officer says the government pays its employees. You know Yves Giroux. He's been on our show many times. He issues a report from time to time on how much the government pays per employee in salary and benefits. Last time he did that was September of 2020, so about a year and a half ago or so, for the fiscal year that ended 2019. And this was for whole of government, okay? Because the federal government is Canada's largest employer. The federal government employs 370,000 people, and the payroll is the Canadian government's largest operating expense. That's why we need the payroll software to work. It's too bad it doesn't. But anyway, the average, now there are averages, okay? But the average salary expenditure is what the PBO calls it, was $85,000 per full-time employee. $85,000 a year per full-time employee, salary. Then $13,000 put into the pension, which brings you up to $98,000. Again, this is for full-time employee. Then there's what's known as centralized spending per employee. That was $12,000. So that brings you up to $110,000 on average per full-time employee. Average. Overtime and bonuses, $5,000 per employee. So you're up to $115,000. Employee insurance expenditures, $1,000. You're up to $116,000. And another category called other, which on average was $5,000 per employee. That's all salaries, all benefits, pensions, bonuses, overtime. On average, per full-time employee, working for the federal government of Canada, $121,000 a year. For the whole of government. Not according to me, according to the parliamentary budget officer. So if you work for the government, don't yell at me. Go yell at Yves Giroux. But don't yell at Yves Giroux. He's a very nice man. Carlos in the East End. Carlos.
Hi.
Hi, Carlos. Fair?
Hi.
Or too much?
It's too much.
Too much.
I am a senior retired.
Yeah.
You know how much I got in my old age pension increment in January? About $10.
$10, okay.
And that's for the whole year. Maybe I will get another $10
next year.
January.
Maybe.
I know members of my family who work for the government. They are in the high-end salary.
Right.
And when they start working from home, they receive top-of-the-line laptop.
Top of the line.
Top-of-the-line Apple phone. And they take the day off whenever they want. And they work, they presume to work during the day there, but they only launching around there, you know, and then type a little here, and then they go to watch TV. I know that.
Oh, really, Carlos? Really?
Yeah, they go and then I go to visit them, let's say around this time, and they're watching TV, playing games. And, you know, they're having a good time and they're saving a lot of money because, you know, they used to work in the transportation hall.
Yeah.
They used to pay $200-300 for parking.
Yeah.
Now they don't pay that anymore. And plus, they get the money for the internet for working at home.
Oh, really? Oh, that's nice. That's a nice perk. I didn't know about that. All right, Carlos. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. It's funny. Like, we've had people call. I'm working. as hard as ever for the government, and others are like, yeah, they're not working at all. Jay in Ottawa. Jay.
How's it going today?
It goes. So it's 4.5% a year for 3 years. Is that fair or too much?
Well, let's look at this honestly. Is that 13.5%? Does that bump everybody up into a different tax bracket? And they're only ending up bringing home 6%. What's the realistic number after taxes? Because I worked for the provincial government for the last 30 years, and I've never wanted a pay increase in the sense that when I get a pay increase, I turn around and I look at my pay stub, and I'm negative $50 because it's bumped me up over a tax bracket.
Right.
And that's being realistic with the way our tax system is set up. So people have to consider when they're asking for a 13.5% raise, which we would all love, what truly is the number that you're going to see at the end of the day in your bank account?
Okay, but they're asking, and inflation is 6.8%. That's what makes this such an interesting conversation. Inflation is 6.8%. They want 4.5% a year. I just want to know, do you think it's fair or too much?
I think it's fair.
Fair, okay.
Well, where does it take you at the end of the day?
Okay, well, that you know, that it's their union who is asking for it. It's the worker who will have to determine where they're at the end of the day. Paul, Saint Laurent. Paul, you're on City News.
Hey, Rob. Love
fair
the show.
Thank you. Fair or too much?
I think it's too much, and I think, honestly, people are underestimating the amount that government workers, I don't want to say slack off, but one of the previous callers kind of said, you know, they have all these benefits, they take off time whenever they want. I know a lot of people that work for the government, and it's kind of a joke. It's a running joke for them. Like, I guess I'll take a family day. I guess I'm sick today. You know, I guess I'm this and that. And like you say, we're paying for that. The last 2 years, you know, they've been working from home all this. I disagree with a lot of what everybody's saying. And, you know, it's not so much, you know, I'm not getting mine kind of thing. Like, I'm a small business owner. We're trying to raise our rates. But with the fuel increases and all the supply increases, it's getting hard because not everybody's getting this 13% or 5% with inflation and all the increases. It's insane. And just to hear government employees of all people saying that they want that much is kind of laughable.
All right.
To tell you the truth.
All right, Paul. Laughable. Okay, I'm going to very, very quickly, in a minute or less, take two calls. Marco, very quickly, Marco. Fair or too much?
I think it's a bit much.
Bit much.
It should be just pegged to inflation on whatever it is yearly. And
well, inflation, if it was pegged to inflation, it'd be 6.8%. They want 4.5%.
But I think it should float with the inflation rate.
Okay. All right, Marco. Thank you. And this one, Trevor, Almont, you're the last call. Trevor, fair or too much?
It's too much, Rob.
Okay.
Just, especially after like during the course of the pandemic, federal employees being able to work from home, they're able to write off a portion of their home because of they're using it as a home office. So they're making savings there. They're going to be going with a hybrid system, going back to work as it is. They're not going to be commuting. I'm not going to sit here. I have friends that work in the federal government to say that they don't work hard. However, they might not work as hard as everyone else. I think they're treated very fairly, and that increase is absurd.
Too much. Okay. Got to go, Trevor. Thank you. The news is coming up, and then Transit Chair Alan Hubley as well. He talk about wild and wacky. Let's wait till you hear what's going on at OC Transpo. Final score at the end of that hour, too much. 14 callers said it was too much. 9, though, said it was a fair deal. So it was hardly overwhelming. The news next on City News.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, May 19th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, some scattered light rain. It's 8 degrees in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Some are questioning why the city is hiring so many new bus drivers for OC Transpo, up to 300 apparently needed, but the buses aren't nearly full and the service is bleeding money. City News reporter Chris Curry's with the details from the chair of the Transit Commission.
Part of the hiring is mandatory.
80 or so are related to this new federal requirement that we didn't have when we drew up the first long-range financial plan that we have been working under that said that we would see a decline in the number of operators.
Chair of the Transit Commission, Alan Hubley, tells City News that OC Transpo is losing $200K a day, but they're hoping that new drivers means different routes and more riders, especially important since ridership's still only at 45% of pre-pandemic levels and still well below budgeted numbers. Chris Curry's City News.
And more with Alan Hubley coming up on the Rob Snow Show shortly. City News time, 11:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A cooler day for us today. A few showers at times, a high about 15 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, will drop to 8 degrees. And heads up tomorrow, it will be warm and humid, 26, feeling like 31. A few showers, scattered thunderstorms possible Friday. For today, the high, 15.
And right now is some scattered rain. It's 8 degrees in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. The advance poll for the June 2nd provincial election have been open for about an hour now, and they're open every day, 10 in the morning till 8 in the evening until May 28th. Now, 2 of the main party leaders are in isolation after testing positive for COVID. One last night, one this morning. The NDP's Andrea Horwath and the Green Party's Mike Schreiner. Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford and Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca both tested negative, and Del Duca says he has sent well wishes to the 2 that are in isolation.
I did reach out to both Ms. Horwath and Mr. Schreiner. I called them both, left them both voicemails, letting them know that I hope they're doing okay and that I hope that they recover so quickly. I think this is a good reminder that though we all want to be on the other side of this pandemic that there are still risks.
Now, Del Duca will be in Ottawa tonight. It's an 8 o'clock visit to a not-for-profit long-term care home. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation throwing its support behind local NDP and Liberal candidates in this election. The union says it will formally endorse the parties in 7 area ridings. 4 different media events are being held tomorrow to bring the union and the candidates they endorse together. 5 of the candidates the union supports are Liberal. The other 2 are running for the NDP. The white man accused of killing 10 black people at a supermarket in Buffalo has appeared in court.
Peyton Gendron, in an orange jumpsuit, white face mask, and shackles, appeared before a judge while relatives of his alleged victims sat behind him in the courtroom. As he was led out, someone shouted, "Peyton, you're a coward!" Gendron is charged so far with 1 count of first-degree murder. Prosecutors said his case has now gone to the grand jury, which is expected to return an additional indictment. Gendron is due back in court next month. He's being held in protective custody. Aaron Katersky, ABC News, New York.
City News Time, 11:05. Brian Adams will be playing the Canadian Tire Centre October 7th. Tickets for that show go on sale next Friday at 10 in the morning. It's part of a cross-Canada tour by Adams that will include stops in Kingston and 6 other venues across southern and northern Ontario. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
There's a meeting of the Transit Commission yesterday. Lots of interesting news coming out of that about the state of public transit here in the city of Ottawa and the operations with OC Transpo. And we're joined this morning on the Rob Snow Show here on City News by the chair of the Transit Commission, Canada Area Councillor Alan Hubley. Good morning, Councillor.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, nice to hear from you. How would you describe the current financial position of OC Transpo?
Well, it's been the same throughout the pandemic. It's we're relying on handouts from the federal and provincial government to get us through this, and that's not a position that I really like to be in.
Okay, can you be more specific than that, please?
Well, okay, we have shortfalls, obviously, in the millions because the ridership is not back to what it was pre-pandemic. And so we rely on the federal and provincial government to top up those revenues that are missing. So, it's around 17 million, I believe it was, for the first quarter. That we need, and so I'd like to see us get to a position where we don't rely on that.
Okay, so what are the alternatives then?
Well, we're going to have to make adjustments to the service, I believe, and what I've been talking about lately is some adjustments we can make that might help us bring in more riders by adding more routes in the suburban areas that right now are not well served, I guess is the best term to use for that. So if we could get some better routes around the burbs, that would help. And we're going to have to do a review of the system, because if we don't have the public servants that want to go from the burbs to the core, then those former express routes, and now known better as the 200 series routes, are not needed. So let's redeploy those resources to where maybe we can get some new riders.
Okay. So give me an example of what that would look like. So say, for example, an OC Transpo or a prospective OC Transpo rider in your area of Canada, instead of maybe they used to get a bus downtown or an express bus downtown, but they don't have to go downtown anymore to work. So maybe you're saying maybe you redeploy resources away from that commuting style service to a more residential type service, maybe something that takes somebody from one side of Canada to Centrum or one side of Canada to Bayshore or something like that, Councillor? Is that what you mean? Or?
Well, there's 20,000 jobs in the Canada North Business Park, for example. And, there's a lot of people in Canada South and Stittsville and Barrhaven, for example, that work in Canada North. And so to create a bus system with routes that will travel through the business park and through the other businesses that we have around Canada, there's a core of businesses along Palladium, for example, the Canada South Business Park. Those are areas that right now are not well served by transit. If we create a route, and we've started, Rob, the good news is we've already started with one route that will serve that area, and it's called Route 110. And what we're trying to do is pick up the people that would use the transit in that area and bring them through. Now, it's too early to tell how much or how popular that route's going to be. We're still monitoring what the uptake on it is. But routes like that would take people to destinations that currently they can't get to by transit. And then transit becomes a viable alternative to people.
Yeah. I guess here's the problem. Just doing some quick math here. The OC Transpo lost $17.9 million in the first quarter on an operating basis, okay? So $17.9 million, let's round it up, let's call it $18 million. $18 million loss in 90 days. OC Transpo is losing $200,000 a day. It's running a deficit of $200,000 a day. That is clearly not sustainable. So how do you make it more sustainable?
Well, that's the whole point, is that we've got to eliminate that deficit. Right now, we're being made whole, but we can't count on that forever. So we have to make changes to how we deliver the service, and changing the routes is one. The other part we have to do is look at our capital projects, what can be deferred, what maybe doesn't have to happen in today's new world. Those are the kinds of things, because there's millions and millions of dollars on capital project coming up that we've got to give it another look at that and say, okay, is that what we want to do?
Okay.
And so that's how we can hopefully erase most of that deficit.
What about the fuel costs? Around the corner here, diesel is going for $2.24. It's actually come down a little bit. It was $2.37 a few days ago, but nevertheless, I've looked this up. I actually read these reports, Councillor. You know that.
I know you do, Rob. For years.
The city of Ottawa uses 50 million liters of diesel. Every year, 50 million liters. And the last time it went out, it buys it in bulk, uses a hedging strategy, very smart. It was buying diesel for about $1 a liter. You're not going to get it for $1 a liter next time. You'll be lucky if you can get it for $2 a liter. So that would mean the fuel costs at OC Transpo are going to double.
Fuel costs for the whole city. All our vehicles that are out on the road all the time. So yet
that's a major cost pressure.
That's
a major cost pressure. I mean, that
Absolutely.
means what used to
OC
cost the city
and for the city.
What used to cost the city $50 million will probably cost $100 million. I just don't hear a lot of talk about this. It would be nice if somebody would do an inquiry, ask the treasurer, ask somebody in the finance department or something. I mean, what is fuel going to cost the taxpayers in the city of Ottawa? I think it's a very valid question.
I don't think anybody can predict what fuel is going to cost next year when they go out again for it, but there will be estimates on that when we do the budget later this fall. And also, don't forget, we've requested a revision or revisit to the long-term financial plan, and in there will be, very high-level estimates of what they expect fuel costs to be in the future, and that's coming back in June. So we're going to have that information out there well in advance of the next budget round that the new council will have to do.
Okay. Can you?
So it'll be available, Rob. But it's,
okay.
There's there's nobody at the city that can tell us what gas is going to be next year.
Okay. Can you describe for the listeners, please, the reliability problems that have arisen now because of the new work schedule adjustments that have been needed in order to comply with the Canada Labour Code's requirement for scheduled work breaks for bus operators?
Okay, so what the new requirement is that for every 5 hours of work, the worker is entitled to a new 30-minute break. And so that doesn't mean like just, pull the bus over and sit on the bus for 30 minutes. They're entitled to get off the bus, go grab a coffee or go to the washroom, whatever they need to do during their break, just like everybody else does. However, what that does to our schedules, as you can imagine, is a bit of a nightmare. And so we're experiencing trip cancellations because we just don't have the ability to keep every bus moving while the drivers take a break.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion, and there's been quite a few letters to the editor in the newspapers over the last few days about OC Transpo's plan to hire 80 bus drivers. That's been budgeted for already, as I understand. Is that correct? 80 bus drivers?
That's correct.
Right?
That was in the 2022 budget. Last year they did an exercise to say how many drivers would we need to cover this, and the budget was that the budget included money for 80 drivers for that specific reason.
And now, coming out of this Transit Commission meeting yesterday, word that you're looking at hiring 300 additional operators by the end of the year, includes
okay,
the eight.
That's
that
not all
includes
related to this, Rob.
No.
That's attrition.
And that's not even my point. My point is, with light rail, there was supposed to be a rationalization of bus operators. With light rail coming online, it was supposed to mean you wouldn't need hundreds of bus drivers. You're supposed to let go through attrition, retirement attrition, 500 bus operators. And here we are, by the end of the year, you're not letting go any, you're hiring 300 more. At a time when ridership is still 33% of pre-pandemic levels. 33% of pre-pandemic levels, and you're not letting go bus operators? You're hiring 300 more? How can you possibly, as a council, justify that to the taxpayer that you're going to hire 300 additional operators to be driving buses all over the city that are 2/3 empty?
Well, the expectation is that obviously the ridership will continue to increase. It has been, so far this year, it's been growing good. But out of the 300, Rob, 80 or so are related to this new federal requirement that we didn't have when we drew up the first long-range financial plan that we have been working under that said that we would see a decline in the number of operators. I can't tell you for sure that every hire for attrition is 1 for 1. I'll have to check on that for you. I think we are reducing overall numbers here, but not to the extent that you're looking for here. But the 80, for example, for the break, we didn't know that was coming. There was no money transferred to us for that. It was just something that 2 years ago was said, okay, we think we want to do that, but there was no accompanying legislation to it that went through Parliament. And then all of a sudden last fall, we're told, okay, we're implementing this. Now, you can say, okay, you knew that was coming. Okay, we knew that they talked about it during the campaign. There's lots of things that get talked about during the campaign that don't come to be. And we never had a date. So how do you plan? Okay, we're going to need 80 new drivers in May of 2022. We didn't have that ability to do that.
All right. Okay. It's also in the paper today that the estimate for the LRT extension to Barrhaven is $3.2 billion. There's no funding commitment from upper levels of government. The city said it's not putting any money into that. You have a ridership right now. I know you're hopeful that it's going to rebound. Ridership right now is down 67%. Why would you spend another $3.2 billion to get a light rail train out to Barrhaven?
Well, first off, we're not spending that money right now, as you said. It's the pandemic has thrown a real curve at the long-range plan, and that's why we're taking another look at it. But we also know that we have to extend to Canada and to Barrhaven if you want a system that goes citywide. Now, if the ridership for public transit stays at, I think it's a little higher than 30% right now. I thought the last report had it up over 40, and growing. So, but even if it stays, Rob, let's just pick a number and say that it levels out at 50 or 60%. This report that'll come back in June will tell us what's our options if that's the case. Where can we make changes in our budget, whether that be reduce routes and trips or put the future phases of LRT on hold for another couple of years, which, quite frankly, I'd be disappointed in. I'd like to see, if not the train, I'd like to see a BRT system put in place to get out to Canada and Barrhaven so that we can get 1/3 of the city included in this plan. I'm not so sure it was a great move by the city to say, okay, well, we're not going to build this. We want upper levels of government to build it. Because basically you told 1/3 of the city that you don't consider them part of the plan.
Okay. All right, Councillor. Thanks. Tough questions today, I know, but thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate your answers, sir.
Anytime, Rob.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
It really is a tremendous source of excitement and joy for the theatre staff and I to welcome artists finally back to the theatres. It was a tremendous pleasure to sit on the selection committee. We really have something to cater to all musical tastes, from trippy art pop to straight ahead rock and roll to soul and funk. But it's huge for us to be able to welcome local artists back into the theatres to showcase their amazing talents for people here.
Up to the top is where I'm headed and I'm going.
You know what? I've checked out some of the stuff already before doing this. I've been hyped and ready to do this because it's definitely being done on a major level. And, I'm here seeing it in person right now and I'm like, wow, this is what it is, man. I'm happy to be here.
This kind of concert series promotes music and gives us newcomers or even like new bands a big chance to showcase their talents and share their music with the world.
It's amazing that OMIC has organized this and given an opportunity for artists to perform, but also be part of something that I wouldn't be able to create this just on my own. So everybody's talents comes together to create something great.
It says a lot about the city that they are engaging the processes that get those musicians out and get them in front of people, and the music is getting heard. So we don't have a thing where everybody's the best kept secret, right? We're sort of breaking through that wall a lot, and which is exactly what we need.
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. For me, it's a little bit like being officially part of the local artist community in Ottawa. And it's like my first real big show where I'm gonna be performing my own songs, so it's really exciting.
What the hell's going on? Why still holding on?
It's a great opportunity for us artists to be able to really get a reach to an audience and a good quality audience too. I'm just happy that I can be involved. I'm happy that I can add value. It's top tier for sure.
It really is like a dream come true, especially having so many restrictions in the last couple of years, not being able to jam because we couldn't get together, and then to be able to do it in a beautiful venue like this with the seats in the background and just the whole entourage of it, and really feeling like we're able to put on a real show for the first time in a long time. It's just fantastic. It really is great.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
2 weeks from today, it's election day in the province of Ontario. The leaders on the hustings today. Stephen Del Duca promising to lower the price of gas. He made an announcement at a Mississauga gas station this morning. Then he holds a media event. He held a media event with the so-called ethnic media at 10:30 this morning. And right now he's meeting with some small business owners, all happening in Mississauga before he goes to Brampton. And tonight, Stephen Del Duca will be in Ottawa attending an event with Liberal supporters at Villa Marconi on Baseline Road. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner is isolating at home. He announced last night on his social media account that he has tested positive for COVID. And Andrea Horwath, same thing. Although she is isolating at a hotel in Ottawa today, she's tested positive for COVID and has been campaigning remotely already this morning. As for the PC leader, Doug Ford, he was in Niagara-on-the-Lake this morning with another infrastructure-related announcement, getting it done. And he was asked by news reporters about his rivals in the election campaign testing positive for COVID-19. Let's listen in.
With both Andrea Horwath and Mike Schreiner testing positive for COVID-19, is that a reminder that the pandemic isn't over yet? And will you be changing anything about the way you're campaigning because of it?
No, we're always going to follow the protocols of the chief medical officer. By the way, I got tested today, and I tested negative just out of abundance of caution. But I encourage everyone to continue to follow the protocols. But we have a plan to keep the economy and the province open. We've increased the capacity at the hospitals, 3,100 acute care beds. We're adding another 3,000 beds. We're hiring more nurses, more doctors, building more hospitals like the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, the new Niagara Hospital. So we're building the capacity to make sure we keep our economy going.
And in 2018, you promised a gas tax cut, but not a temporary one. Given the skyrocketing gas prices, will you consider making your gas tax permanent instead of just for 6 months?
Well, we're the only party that knocked off 4.3 cents at the beginning of our mandate, and we're knocking off another 5.7 cents. The busiest time of the season is for travels through the summertime, and we're going to continue putting money back into people's pockets. We're the only government that's going to lower the gas tax. We already got rid of the tolls, and we got rid of the license plate stickers. The other parties, they want to increase your taxes, increase the gas taxes, and we just aren't going to do that. We believe that it's a time now that people get more money back in their pockets rather than the government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Premier Ford. I'm with the St. Catharines Standard.
Hi.
In Niagara, 3 of your Conservative candidates for St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Niagara Centre have declined to participate in the Cogeco TV debates. They've declined to participate in the radio stations debates. They've declined to participate in the debates by the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce and by the South Niagara Chamber of Commerce. And they've declined to be interviewed by the newspaper. We're seeing that this is happening in other communities as well. And I'm just wondering from you, why are your candidates not participating in the election campaign and answering questions? And from you personally, do you think it's appropriate that people who want a job for the next 4 years are not showing up for the job interview?
Well, what I think is important, they're out door knocking, speaking to thousands and thousands. Matter of fact, we're door knocking tens of thousands of doors every single day. Our message is very, very clear, and everyone knows our message, that we're going to start building, continue to build bridges, roads, and highways. We're going to put more money back into people's pockets. We're building hospitals and building schools schools. That's what we're going to do. It's a very, very clear message.
That's interesting.
And,
that's Doug Ford campaigning Niagara on the Lake this morning, and that's the second day in a row where Doug Ford has been at an event, and he's been asked by the local media in the community that he's been in this case, that was from the St. Catharines Standard, why are the Conservative candidates skipping local debates? Gas prices also a talker today on the campaign trail. By the way, our one of our gas price experts, Roger McKnight from Enpro, says that gas prices in Ottawa are probably going to fall 3 cents throughout the day today, and then 8 more cents by Friday at most stations, and we'll be back below $2 a liter. So if you're running on fumes, try to make it a little bit further, and you might get you might save a buck or two on a tank of gas. Okay, back right after the news. We'll talk about the price of food and the situation here early in the planting season for our local farmers with Michael Obey from Rutter's Elevators. This is City News.
The Calgary Stampede is a world-renowned festival celebrating wrangling, bull riding, and everything cowboy. But did you know that many people credit its origins to a Black Canadian? Take a minute to meet John Ware. The word cowboy has racist roots. Before the American Civil War, white ranchers were called cowhands, but the enslaved black men and women working alongside them were actually referred to as cowboys to infantilize and disrespect black ranchers. The legend of cowboy John Ware is full of impressive feats and awe-inspiring skill, including the ability to train even the wildest broncos and easily hold a horse on its back. But the real story of John Ware is one that starts from more humble beginnings. Ware was born into slavery in the United States, gaining his freedom towards the end of the American Civil War in 1865. Ware's skills with cattle ranching developed as he traveled throughout the United States, eventually settling in a town southwest of present-day Calgary, Alberta, which made him one of the first black pioneers in the prairies. Over time, news of Ware and his amazing cowboy skills began to spread, and people came from across North America to witness his horsemanship and skills as a rancher. Eventually, Ware went on to own many of his own ranches. In 1892, he became the first man in Western Canada to earn the title of steer wrestler, and Ware's feats in local contests set the stage for the Calgary Stampede Rodeo we know today. In September of 1905, Ware was killed in a freak accident with his horse, and more than 10,000 mourners from across the region attended his funeral, making it one of the largest in Alberta history. Though his true story is difficult to separate from the legends around him, Ware's status as a respected forefather of cowboy skill continues to be celebrated today. Ware has dedicated monuments across Alberta, including several sites near his first ranch, a Calgary school in his namesake, and a building at the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, May 19th. Good morning, I'm Danielle Bain. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, some light rain and 8 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. 2 of the leaders of the 4 major provincial parties are sidelined with COVID-19 with 2 weeks left to Election Day. Both NDP leader Andrea Horwath and Green Party leader Mike Schreiner have tested positive, while Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford and Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca have both tested negative. This comes right after Horwath visited Nepean and Smiths Falls yesterday. Del Duca plans to visit Ottawa tonight for an 8 o'clock visit to a non-for-profit long-term care home in Nepean. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation is throwing its support behind local NDP and Liberal candidates in this election. The union says it will be formally endorsing those parties in 7 area ridings. 4 different media events are being held tomorrow to bring the union and the candidates they endorse together. 5 of the candidates the union supports are Liberals. The other 2 are running for the NDP. And public health authorities are investigating 17 suspected cases of monkeypox in the Montreal area. Dr. Mylene Drouin told reporters today the cases have not yet been confirmed by a lab, but she says recent outbreaks in Europe and a case reported in the United States suggest they are likely cases of the virus. Monkeypox is typically limited to Africa, and rare cases in the United States and elsewhere are usually linked to travel there. Drouin said the disease is transmitted by close contact and there is no reason for people to panic. City News Time, 11:33. I'm Danielle Bain for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
All right, Let's talk about farming and the rising input costs for our farmers. The outlook right now for our farmers with food inflation up almost 10%, according to that Statistics Canada inflation report that was released yesterday. We've heard it from some farmers on this show about how their costs are going up, but it's also a very strong market for many agricultural commodities right now. Michael Obey is back with us from Rutter's Elevators in Chesterville. Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good.
You must be busy?
Yes, we're very busy. We probably have one of the greatest windows. I was just not a little longer, but we're probably one of the greatest windows we've ever had to put the crop in. Ideal conditions and the warm weather. Whatever got in was off to a great start. Seen corn pop up within 5 days. The soil temperatures were so warm, and there was adequate moisture in the ground, so that's off to the races. Now, of course, we're complaining again. There's probably a little too much rain, so we're probably going to lose some population because of the great abundance of rain that we just received and we're receiving at the moment.
You guys in the agribusiness, you're never happy.
We're never happy.
No, but you needed the rain though for a while. It was getting pretty parched there for a while, right?
No, definitely was.
Yeah.
So right now, I'd have to say about 85% of the corn is planted and about 65% of the beans. So we're off to a good start. However, next Monday will turn around. We'll be, the 20th, the 21st of May. We're getting to the end. So hopefully we can get another round in and finish up this year's crop. But it's been a challenge, and as you said, with the increase in the expenses, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. So what are you hearing about that? Give us a sense of.
Tillage is key, especially in these cooler areas. Eastern Ontario is not like in the Corn Belt in the States. We need tillage. We need to warm up the ground, work it properly, and just that one day, and you start doing the math while you're cropping. I had 3 tractors burning 18 U.S. gallons an hour, which was costing me $160 an hour times 4. Well, last year was way less than half of that.
Right.
So everything, even if it's fertilizer deliveries and everything has wheels under it, and that has always been a silent killer. Is when inflation hits, people don't really actually see the detrimental effect on their bottom line. It'll take a year or two, and farmers are price takers. However, the crop prices are high, but the expenses are going to erode a lot of these margins.
Okay, so I want to know for farm equipment, it's different for, somebody driving a Volkswagen diesel around the corner is paying $2.22 a liter. Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, for some farm equipment, there's a thing called color diesel, but you also buy it in bulk. So what for a liter? By the liter, what do they pay?
Probably like a date like today. I think we're running about $1.90, $1.88.
Okay.
And last year we were running probably 96 cents to $1, $2.05.
Right. So it's still just about doubled for the farmer.
It is.
Right?
It is. Yeah, it is double. And then and then along with the transportation of the commodities, which to go down to our end users. So that's just a tumble effect of inflation upon inflation on our food costs.
Right. And on the fertilizer side of things, what's going on there?
Oh, that's quite the thing. All of a sudden, certain companies have to go back and recharge the 35% tariffs that were put on with the Russian Russian tariffs.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
yeah.
they thought their costs were X amount, which were very high to begin with. Well, now there's this tariff that's being questioned of how they handle it, and all herbicides and have gone up. It's the fertilizer cost is just what we paid last year for nitrogen is now 3 times of what we paid last year.
Wow. Okay.
So it's it's a different environment now.
Yeah.
Cost control is going to play a greater part in our business than ever before.
Okay. Now, and I in addition to that, Canadian fertilizer, potash, whatever, is a little more expensive than importing it from Russia as well, from what I hear.
It is. I'm not sure who owns that now, but it's I don't think it's owned by a Canadian enterprise anymore. So it's a world it's a world commodity now, and we're something we probably paid $580 for is now $1,200 to $1,300 for that same potash being produced or being mined in our own country.
Yeah. That's by the ton. You're talking about
ton,
Michael. Yeah. Okay. All right. So much higher costs. Okay. Much higher costs.
Costs, yeah.
And it's not like the farmer can just turn around and say, well, I'm just going to double my price of my corn and my soybeans. Doesn't work that way.
We're price takers.
Yeah, doesn't work that way.
And,
I was looking up on the commodity markets. So far this year, I see soybeans on the global market up 25%, corn price up 31% so far this year. So strong markets, that's a good thing, right?
That's a good thing. And we're at risk. Like, there's a lot of speculation in that in CBOT, which kind of dictates our future price on the grain. So it's helping some to offset some of these additional costs, but repairs and maintenance, supply chain issues, we're just seeing overinflated parts and equipment costs.
Right.
Along with that.
Yeah. So the forecast for the year for prices they must be expected to stay strong, though, because of the situation in Ukraine, which is such a big grain exporter, right?
Yeah, we went from an abundance of food to
shortages.
To a shortage, yes. Everything's holding well, but it wouldn't take much. Let's say if we did have a Black Friday or a downturn in the stock market, you'd see the spec money pull right out of these commodities also. That could put us at risk, because there is a lot of spec money in our food source.
Okay. So you're a grain merchandiser.
Yes.
At Rutter's.
Yeah.
There, right? So you would take the farmer's grain.
Yes.
You help store it, you help dry it, all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So on your side of the business, what's that been like for you from a costing point of view, from an input costs? For example, I hear drying it, for example, because of carbon taxes is gone up.
That's all additional costs and so on and so forth. Even labor's gone up, and
right.
To try and offset some of this inflation. How far can we go? We can only go so far, but those additional costs are starting to hurt our bottom line. So you have to be on top of that. The other thing is, we hedge a lot, so we have margin calls. Because of the volatility in the marketplace.
Right.
There's a lot of interest money, and that's the thing. With prime, we used to play 2%, 2.25% for prime. Well, now we're 3.25%, probably going up to 3.5%. So that over time will erode margins.
Yeah. So banking costs, financial services costs. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Now, as a grain merchandiser for farmers here in Eastern Ontario, I bring my grain to you. Mm-hmm. Where does it go? Where do you send it?
So we've got ethanol plants. We've got starch plants here in Eastern Ontario.
Okay.
We were blessed this year with a lot of export. Right, probably about 7 days after the war broke out, we had 2 or 3 great venues, and it probably exported. Not myself, but together we probably exported about 180,000 metric ton out of the country.
Wow.
Wow.
And so that really helped get rid of our product, and we found a stronger demand.
Okay, all right.
So that got exported. Our beans are mainly getting exported right now overseas.
Okay.
And I just have to look into it. Just quote me if I'm wrong, but I think China has opened up to our canola market.
They did end the ban on Canadian canola. Yeah,
That's right.
They
exactly.
did.
So
They
that's
did.
another plus.
That was in place for 3 years. Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
It's been a long one. So that's helping soybean prices and soybean oil prices and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right.
So it's
So you need the fuel price to come down a little bit. If fertilizer prices could come down, that'd be a bonus, and it could stop raining any time now.
That's right. Exactly.
Right. Okay, Michael.
Well, good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great to check in. Thanks, man.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Yeah, Michael Obey from Chesterville, president and grain merchandiser with Rudders Elevators. And that's how your food gets made. 11:43, Rob Snow Show, City News.
That same old train that brought me here's gonna carry me away again. Darling, you can't love one. Darling, you can't love one. You can't love one. You still had fun. Darling, you can't love one. I'm riding on that new river train. I'm riding on that new river train. That same old train that brought me here is gonna carry me away again. Darling, you can't love two. Darling, you can't love two. You can't love two. Still be true. Darling, you can't love two. I'm riding on that new river train. I'm riding on that new river train. That same old train that brought me here is gonna carry me away again. Darling, you can't love three. Darling, you can't love three. You can't love three and still be free. Darling, you can't love three. I'm riding on that new river train. I'm riding on that new river train. That same old train that brought me here is gonna carry me away again. Darling, you can't love more. Darling, you can't love more. You can't love more. You still want more. Darling, you can't love more. I'm riding on that new river train. I'm riding on that new river train. That same old train that brought me here is gonna carry me away again.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Hey, don't look now, but there's major golf underway. PGA Championship, Southern Hills. The Southern Hills Championship Golf Course is the site of this year's PGA Championship. And joining us to talk golf, Canadian Press golf writer Adam Stanley. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. And this is a really interesting leaderboard. Rory McIlroy leads the way so far early into the first round of the PGA Championship. What have you thought of the play so far?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see Rory get off to such a good start. Rory has not played first round at major championships very well over the last 2 years or so. He's gone 76, 75, 76 in his last 3 opening rounds at major championships, and he's gotten out and he's gotten off to an amazing start. And honestly, it's needed. I think Rory needed this start. I think kind of the golf world this week with no Phil Mickelson and kind of that cloud over the week, to have golf's new global superstar get off to such a nice start has been really impressive to see. Can he hang on to this over the next 3.5 days? That remains to be seen, but so far, so good.
Okay. Tiger Woods just had a bogey. He's at even par just through his first 9, but he's playing in a major again. What are the expectations for Tiger Woods?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I don't think that anyone these days should count out Tiger Woods' golfing effort. His golf game continues to look really, really good. And he kind of put that on display early on today. First hole, he outdrove his 2 playing competitors and then hit a wedge to like 3 feet and banged it in for an opening birdie. So Tiger Woods' golf game remains tight. It's that walk, though. I don't know if you guys have it on TV in the studio or you're going to watch it later, but Tiger Woods' gait, the way that he's moving one foot in front of the other, remains a little bit concerning.
Yeah, he still looks a bit labored.
It's going to stay that way, I think, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we'll talk about some of the other players coming up shortly. Southern Hills Country Club. Tell us about the course.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those major championship venues. This golf course has hosted, I think it's 8 majors in its time. It was established in the 1930s. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The last event that they had was the PGA in 2007 that Tiger Woods won. That week, if anyone listening remembers, it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit every single day that week. It was in August. It was just terrible. I actually was texting with one of the guys at the PGA of America whose very first major was that one, and he tells me he would have rather hung out in a sauna that week than hang out at Southern Hills Country Club. That's how hot it was. So this week, not so much on the heat, but a lot of changes to this golf course. 2019, the golf course underwent an entire and complete restoration to make it look and play and feel more like how it looked, felt, and played in the 1930s when it was first designed. Overall, the players are loving it, though, and I think it looks fabulous on TV.
Yeah, it does look nice on TV. Hot day in Tulsa today. I just looked up the weather forecast. Tulsa going to be 33 degrees today. So that's smoking hot.
A little spicy, yeah.
Then 31 tomorrow with scattered thunderstorms, but then it cools off for Saturday and Sunday. 21 and 20 degrees on Saturday and Sunday with a chance of rain both days. So it makes for some interesting weather. The thing I love about the PGA Championship is some really long shots have won the PGA Championship. I think about the guy who's surprisingly on the leaderboard right now, John Daly, who looks like the lost member of ZZ Top this morning.
Yes.
He was kind of a call-up the first time he won the PGA Championship. Remember, he was like, the story is like he drove there all night and slept in the car and goes out, wins a major championship. Winners like Rich Beam. Remember Rich Beam won and where is he now? He's apparently, I think he does a lot of like entertainment and corporate events. Rich Beam. There was another one. I was looking at the list this morning here.
Sean
McKeel, who hit the iron shot of his life to win the PGA Championship. So it has that kind of quirkiness to it that outsiders can win. They're professional golfers, though. It's that's what I've always liked about this tournament.
Yeah, I think this particular major out of all the other ones kind of had that stretch, and historically the body of work of the winners of the PGA Championship has, of course, been all the who's who. I mean, the biggest names in this sport have won this championship, but also we've had the Rich Beams and the Sean McKeels manage to do this as well. The interesting thing about this tournament, or this major championship, I should say, is that it's the only major where the field is made up entirely of professionals. The Masters, the U.S. Open, and the British Open, the Open Championship, they all have amateurs that play in those fields, but this one is made up entirely of pros. So to your point, there's a lot of different ways that professional golfers can actually get into this tournament, which means that the field strength is a little bit lessened as compared to the other major championships, if only because, somebody who's 140th on the FedEx Cup standings could maybe still get into this field and play the PGA Championship and win the PGA. I mean, look at Davis Riley, who's in second place right now. Davis Riley is kind of a know-nothing, came off the Korn Ferry Tour, an absolutely incredible golfer, but who outside of the Riley family actually knows who he is, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's a little less exclusive, but no less prestigious. Let's put it that way. Phil Mickelson is not there, and nobody really knows when he's going to return to the PGA, if ever, because of comments he has made about this Saudi-backed tour. What has that meant for the buzz for this event?
Yeah, I think it's, you could go either way. I think a lot of people are saying, hey, listen, he kind of brought this on himself, which he did. This is kind of something that he needs to navigate on his own, which he does. But at the same time, and his comments were entirely inappropriate, and it's for the best that he's on the shelf for the next little while. But when you strip all that away and you think about the golfing accomplishment that happened last year, I mean, this is a guy at 50 years old who did something that nobody in the history of the sport has ever done, and this year should have been a celebration of that accomplishment, and it's just not. And who knows, maybe that's his last kind of kick at the can. It's his last thing to do on one of golf's biggest stages, and this year there was little to no excitement for it. If he had been here, he would have been a distraction. If he had been here, the conversation would have been wrapped in his comments and not his achievement. Who knows when he's going to return? Perhaps it's the U.S. Open. Perhaps it's one of these new Saudi-backed golf league events. But I guess two things can be true here. One, his accomplishment last year was absolutely incredible and will go down in history as such. And two, the smartest guy in the room said the dumbest thing possible, and he's kind of having to go through that himself right now.
Okay. All right, let's make some picks. David, who are you picking? David?
Max Homa.
Who?
Max Homa.
Max Homa.
Why are you laughing at him?
Okay.
I was laughing at the who? Comment by you. Yeah,
Max
I like
Homa.
last week.
Max Homa. Okay. All right. Max Homa.
Up and comer.
Okay. All right. Okay. Look, I mentioned, the outsiders and the long shots have a history of winning this tournament, like the John Daly's of the world. I'm not going in that direction at all, as much as I love to pick the long shots. Look at what happened with the Kentucky Derby, right? 80-1. I am going with maybe the most obvious. I'm going Scotty Scheffler. Golf is such a streaky game, and he is just playing it on a whole other level right now. He is the number one golfer in the world. He just won the Masters. He's number one in the FedEx rankings, and he's my pick, Scotty Scheffler. Adam Stanley, who are you going with, Adam Stanley?
Yeah, great pick by you on Scotty Scheffler there. I'm going to say Brooks Koepka this week. Brooks Koepka, he's won 4 majors, 2 of them being the PGA Championship. I don't think he's getting enough love this week, and that's exactly the kind of thing that he likes. You know what? Count me out. Don't talk about me. Don't think about me. I'm going to have this chip on my shoulder. I'm going to go out there and take care of business. So I like Brooks Koepka to find the winner's circle at a major again this week.
All right. Enjoy the golf, Adam. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
appreciate
bye-bye.
it.
From the Canadian Press, golf writer Adam Stanley. Back tomorrow, right after the 9 o'clock news with the Rob Snow Show, including the Friday free-for-all at 750-1310. Sam, standing by with the Sam LaPrade Show right after the noon news on City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
Tune in weekdays starting at 9 on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.